There we go. All right, everybody. This is try number 2. All right. Welcome to the Half-Ass Podcast. We're going to try this again from yesterday. First of all, I don't even know where to start. We have AVN Award nominee, as well as someone who has appeared in Reality Kings, Archangel, Third Movies, Girlfriends Films, and Devil Film. And not only that, ladies and gentlemen, she's a comedian. She's flying high right now in Hollywood right now. None other than Kate Kennedy. How's it going?
Pretty good. Thank you so much for having me on again.
Yeah, no problem. It's amazing. It's amazing to have you here on the Half-Ass Podcast. That's for sure.
Thank you. I really enjoyed our dress rehearsal yesterday.
The 3-hour dress rehearsal from yesterday.
I feel very prepared.
But yeah. So one of the first questions that I asked you yesterday, that I really actually wanted to get into, just a little bit more, is pretty much why did you go into comedy, coming from the adult film industry?
Because I wasn't that good at the adult film industry. No, I had wanted to do comedy since I was really, really young. I loved stand-up. From when I was really young, I loved being in front of people. I always liked an audience. I'm getting a little bit of an echo.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Let me. Do you still hear yourself?
Let me check. No, I didn't hear that. Oh, yeah, no, I did.
Back again.
Try it again. One more time. That one's good. I didn't hear myself that time.
All right.
Sorry, just because it'll trip me up. Oh, now I hear it again.
Yeah, no, you're good. I totally understand.
But yeah, so I'd always loved comedy. I loved entertainment. It was something that was so far out of my wheelhouse. I grew up in a small town in Colorado, and my family are not Hollywood people. They're not entertainment people. And it wasn't even something that I realistically thought I could pursue. But it was always like a secret desire. And
yeah.
I was obsessed with comedy. I watched every special. I would stay home on Saturday nights, watch Saturday Night Live. And then when I came to LA and I'd been here for about a year, I started doing podcasts within the adult industry and just guesting because there's a lot of interview shows. And I guess I was a pretty engaging guest. And I ended up doing a show for this guy that also did a stand-up show at the Comedy Store here in LA. And we were talking afterwards. He's like, you're really funny. And if you can write 5 minutes, you can open my show. And I was like, okay. So and initially, the really funny story with this is that I was so psyched. And then not a week later, I got booked for my first anal scene the next day.
That is crazy.
Yeah. And it was something that this was in the end of April. The show was in May, and we had been trying to sell. It's really hard to sell a first of anything anymore in porn.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'd been in the industry performing full time for over 6 months. I went to my agent on January 1st, was like, look, I want to do anal. I want to do more stuff. Let's try to pitch it. And so literally they had strung us along. I had to go in a go-see. It was all stuff. And finally it gets booked, and it's my first one. So it's $2,500. I'm stoked. And so it comes,
Holy
the scene was supposed
shit.
Yeah. So the scene was supposed to be on Sunday. It was, for big company too. And on Thursday, I got a call from my agent saying that they had canceled the scene. The director had seen my picture and he didn't like my face, and he didn't think I was pretty enough to be on his site.
What?
Yeah. And I hate to split hairs about this, but I feel like my face was maybe not the focal point of that film. And like you can say whatever you want about my face, my butthole is fucking flawless. So I mean, and it's the end of the month too. It was my rent money. I was freaking the fuck out. So I'm like, I run around my house screaming for like 15 minutes, just fucking livid. And I didn't know what to do. And I was like, all right, like I'm always someone that's like, let's make the best of a shitty situation. So the next thing I thought of was like, let me call Dave. And so I called and I was like, hey, can I still open your show? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. Come to the Comedy Store on Saturday night.
That's
so
awesome.
I had 24 hours to write a 5-minute stand-up set. I had never done stand-up in my entire fucking life. I Googled how to write stand-up. I still have my original set list from that night, and it's not even a set list. It's like a fucking 5-paragraph essay. Like every joke is typed out and punctuated, and I practiced it. I recorded it. I timed it. I drank like a bottle of wine, and then I drank a pot of coffee to like even it out.
Yeah.
I called my mom, which I never do.
Holy shit.
And I was trying to explain it to my mom too, because like I said, they're not Hollywood people. So I'm trying to explain like the significance of this to her. And I'm like, this is a club that like Robin Williams and Richard Pryor and like Jim Carrey and David Letterman, like these are the people that their names on. This is the biggest comedy club in the world.
Yeah.
And like, I'm going to go be on this stage. And she was just like, oh, that's nice, sweetie. I hope it goes well. I have a joke now that like I could sell out Madison Square Gardens and my mom would be like, oh, bring a sweater. It's cold in Wisconsin this kind of time of year.
It's like, do you not realize how big
not
this
at
is?
all. And so I went, I was so nervous. I like practiced my set the entire way from the Valley to my Uber driver. He had to listen to me like 3 times. And poor man, I tipped him really well. And I went up and I opened at the Comedy Store for Jamie Kennedy. And
Still jealous of that.
So cool. God. It went really, really well. It killed. I got off the stage. I'll never forget. I got off the stage and Dave was standing there and he gives me this big hug. He goes, hey, this is a career if you want it to be a career.
Damn.
And I was like, cool.
Oh my God.
Oh, best night of my life by far.
That's got to be a weight lift off your shoulders a little bit though, right? Like you got to feel like, oh man, like somebody actually approves of me, like in this career field, you know?
Especially after coming from like such a huge rejection, not 48 hours before.
Yeah.
So like it was this huge, like the biggest high ever, just incredible feeling. And I called my mom and I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. Like, this is everything. From the first minute, I was like, this is everything.
Oh man.
Yeah. And I mean, I had initially gotten into porn because I was in my early 20s and I didn't want to have a 9-to-5 job and I wanted to be creative. I always wanted to be a writer when I was young. So I kind of thought, I was like, okay, I'm going to go have adventures, have something to write about. And also like, I mean, I have some kind of funky views on like labor and capitalism.
Please enlighten us. Let us know that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fucking ridiculous that we're expected to work, not even 40 hours a week, because coming out of college, I graduated in 2016 and like my friends that got jobs in their fields were working 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my God.
I couldn't do it. I was miserable. I can't sit at a desk. Like, I can't do the same thing every day. And I just was so lost at that point. And when I got into porn, it was this thing where it was like, okay, this is my ticket. This is the thing that's going to be able to fund. It was never going to be a forever job. It was going to be an adventure. It was going to be a way to spend my 20s. And it was going to be a way to bankroll my 20s. And I enjoyed it. I had a wonderful time in adult film. I have like nothing but good memories and good friends. It was great. And it allowed me to do, and there's so many sex workers that use sex work to like fund their
fulfill their dreams.
Yeah. Whether it's school or comedy or anything, like there's so many people that do that. And I think that says a lot about like just the ways that we value labor in this country. And how hard it is to break into like a quote unquote rarefied industry. Where, like we talk about this in Hollywood all the time. It's really fucking hard to do this if you don't have a trust fund.
Yeah. And also like working, I mean, let's go back to the 40-hour-a-week thing. I mean, you think about it, like I was saying yesterday, like you think about China, like that's their standard in
Yeah.
here in America. It's like we complain about 40 hours a week, which rightfully so. We're like, look, man, like 40 hours a week, you can't really live a life outside of that. I mean, you can, but not
You're
really.
so exhausted.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
yet what is corporate's excuse to us is that, oh, China works 80 hours. China works
Right.
100 hours a week. Makes money. And it's just like, yeah, but we're not China. Like we don't
Right.
have
That's
to
like
do that.
someone being like, sorry, I chopped your hand off, but this guy's a double amputee. So
So get over it, you know.
at least you
That's
have
pretty much
another
what they tell
one.
us. That's pretty much what they tell us, though, you know.
Mhm.
So I did have a question. One of the questions that I actually forgot to ask you about yesterday is in comedy, how much work goes into, you know, the 5 minute, you know, opener, or, you know, maybe the half hour? Like, do you do your jokes word for word, or is it just like pinpoints? Or I don't even know if you're even allowed to tell me. Like, is that like a comedian secret? Like,
Oh, not at all. When I first started doing comedy, I wrote everything out because I didn't know how to do it. Like
Mhm.
I was sitting at home on my computer, like how to write stand up. Like I didn't know. And so I would say it, and I still kind of do this to an extent where I'll say it out loud and hear
Yeah.
how it sounds. And then I'll write it down. And I do like, especially if it's a specific phrase where it's like, oh, I really like that word or that combination of words, I will write that out. Now I write
Mhm.
them more like, and I can show you, I write them more like taglines. So I kind of try to do it more of an outline. Where like this is one. So this is a joke about how I accidentally fucked a Republican. And so at the top it says I accidentally fucked a Republican, and that part's underlined because it's kind of like being a musician and putting together a set list of like songs where it's like you can tell me that and I'm like, "Oh,
Okay.
I know that story and I know which beats to hit." And then for this one I was trying to figure this out. I was up last night actually fixing this joke because it didn't have a good punchline. Because initially it was a one-liner. So a one-liner is just this and then that. So in this case, it was I
Yeah.
accidentally fucked a Republican, and now I'm questioning if my allyship was always performative. Yeah.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
but it goes into like a standard kind of joke format, and obviously like pros, people that are great at this, like they probably don't
Mhm.
adhere to an outline the way that like somebody who's newer like I do. It's three, so it's punch, punch, punch. So it's hard, harder, hardest. The last one has to be the
Mhm.
funniest. So
Yeah.
I actually, yeah. So in this case, I actually dropped the I'm questioning if my allyship is always performative. And I say, I accidentally fucked a Republican. Can't always tell. They look so normal. But there were red flags, if I'm being honest. You
Mhm.
know. Wait, oh yeah. There were red flags. And I will tell you the greatest one, Republicans don't eat pussy. They don't even attempt to. And it's like, motherfucker, how are you gonna stimulate the economy if you can't even stimulate my clit?
Oh my gosh.
And
Oh my.
there were signs I should have noticed. And the biggest one came when he came in my mouth. And I went to go spit it out. And he's like, nah, babe, just let it trickle down.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But
So that one's
what
still
we
really
did
rusty. I just fixed it last night.
we did have the conversation yesterday about how like you have evolved in your comedy as well, with not
Mhm.
like using some of the like adult, you know, performance and sexuality in your
Yeah.
jokes,
Mhm.
which is that's a big deal too, to be able to like go from like having that support when you first start out, like what you were talking about, how you have like that kind of like that safety net of like, okay, I can
Mhm.
use these jokes because I came from this industry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now
And
you
it's an
kind of like
industry that
evolve.
people are interested in.
Yeah.
So I
You said
say
like
as
it
soon
gets
as
their
I
attention.
say it, it's like you're gonna laugh at anything I say because you think I'm hot. So like it's a gimme, and it's like training wheels. I think that's how I compared it yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my last set list that I did this past weekend looked like this. So this is it really condensed, where it's just boom, boom, boom. And so all of those are expanded, but I only need to see this part.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
So like, you showed me like this big pile of books yesterday, like notebooks yesterday, of all the jokes and stuff, all the material that you had.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can, like, if somebody just goes through your book, right, one of your books, and they just mention like a punchline, you can just write like on like a flip of a switch, you can just name the joke it was.
Some of them, they're not all winners. Like, there's jokes I write that I've never done. Or there'll be like concepts where actually that's what I'm going back through really and doing, is because a lot of the when I started writing stand-up or starting to get into it, I either get the punchline or I get the concept, and I very rarely get them both at once.
Yeah.
So when I get a concept, it'll be like, hey, this thing's weird. And that's not really funny.
Yeah.
But you can think of, like, I accidentally fucked a Republican. Not super funny in and of itself. So then you have to come up with, and that's what that page is it has multiple other potential like punchlines, like no handouts, no hand jobs. Yeah. So it has like other ones I was trying out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'll go through the same thing sometimes, even when I'm writing stuff just for like this podcast or my other podcast or whatever. Like it's, I'll just like put like one little like insert in like a text to myself, and I'll go back looking for like notes and stuff, and I'll be like, what the fuck? Like I'll write something like pipe bomb or something like that. I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, like but sometimes I'll like, you give me like, I'll have like one word in my text message, and I'll look at it and I'll be like, oh, that comes from like all this stuff that I was talking about the other day and blah, blah, blah. Like I'll have like a whole story behind it, you know? But yeah, like, but just the fact, like, I don't think people really understand like all that you've achieved and how adventurous your life really has been at only 26. At only 26. Like you went from, Colorado, you went through college, which is crazy. You went through college, then went to the adult film industry, then became a comedian. Like that's insane.
Yeah. I was also in a biker gang for a while. I graduated college in 4 years with 2 degrees, on the dean's list, like with honors. I worked my fucking ass off. I had like 5 or 6 internships. I don't know. I look at like, cause I have my schedules from back then. I'm kind of a hoarder about the stuff that I like write, where I keep everything, because even like stuff that's like really, I'll go back and I like seeing what I was doing. I'm a huge like journalist kind of person. And I'm not formal about it at all. So like for a long time, I have joke books and books that are for specific purposes. And that's why I like these little paper, because they're really cheap and you can get like 12 of them for $5.
Shit, that's not bad at all.
Yeah. And I'm not precious about them. I don't really care. But I'll have like I have bigger ones that are kind of like scratch pads, where I'll write down like to-do lists and grocery lists and laundry lists, and also like, oh, I thought of a joke and all. So like some of them are dense, but I think it's really, I love being able to go back through my life and be like, oh, this is what I was doing on August 18th of 2010.
It's crazy.
It's kind of weird. I love doing it.
Yeah, we had the conversation yesterday about how, and by the way, to the audience, to people watching or the people that will be watching, like, I'm going to keep referring back to stuff that I said yesterday, so just get used to it. I'm super salty that the audio cut out from yesterday. But anyways, so we had a conversation yesterday about how, like, if you can go back to when you, like, if you could look at your 17-year-old self or 16-year-old self, and the fact that they can look at like us at our age now, and the fact that we're like, wow, we actually like, at least we're cool to like our 16-year-old self, you know, like at least.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Like that's awesome.
I do think if you construct your life in a way where like your 15-year-old self would think you're awesome, like you might not on the surface appear to be the most put together adult. Like I definitely live in like a teenager's like wet dream. Like I wake up whenever I want. I eat whatever I want.
Oh my God. That sounds amazing though. Like
it's dope. It's awesome. I live in like a kick-ass apartment that like if you had shown me my apartment when I was 15, I would have like died and
Oh
gone to
my God.
heaven.
Oh my
Um,
God.
yeah, like I really constructed a life. I think this is so important, and I actually don't think we talked about this that much yesterday, but I think it's so important to through your 20s you realize that like you don't have to experience life the way that everyone's always told you do.
Mhm.
And that if you try, like I felt like for so long I was trying to force a square peg into a round hole.
Ooh,
Um
yeah, that's true.
and not even like a dirty euphemism. I just like I didn't fit. And I was
Yeah.
trying so hard. And like I had a moment, I think I was like 22, 23, where I was like, I'm always gonna be miserable if I do this. It's not
Yeah.
gonna like I gotta go figure it out.
And
Um
and,
I,
and sorry to cut you off, but
yeah.
to like just to give you credit though, after you said that yesterday, like I like sat back and like looked at my life and I was like, the way she explained that, honestly, I can kind of apply that to my own life. Like literally, like the way you explained it was like, look, fam, working 40, because I work 50 hours a week and it is fucking terrible.
Yeah.
And I'm just like looking at myself, I'm like, damn, like I need to get my shit together like faster. Cause I'm like looking at it, I'm like literally like, I took the words that you said yesterday, I was like, I hate my job. Like every single day I go to my job, I'm like,
Mhm.
I fucking hate this shit. And I'm like, I'm gonna do something about it. Like I'm just going to do something. Like you gotta achieve your dreams faster. Like it is like what you said. Like it's completely miserable. Nobody wants to live completely miserable.
And it
Like
feels when you're trying to do it, like it's scary as hell because you're not sure that it's going to work. And I'm still
yeah,
not sure. Every month, I'm like, how are we still doing this?
yeah,
And like, I had a moment, I think it was probably last year where I finally put all of my bills on auto pay because I realized I was like, I was 25. I was like, I'm 25 years old. I've never paid a bill late in my goddamn life. I could put it on auto pay. We're
true,
doing it. We're doing it,
true.
kids. Like it's okay. Um, but yeah,
Put on the big
it's
pants
so
now.
scary. It feels like it takes forever. Like even for me, and objectively, it did not take that long. You know, I
Mhm.
started this whole thing when I moved to Portland when I was 23. I lived there for almost a year behind the scenes working for an adult film company up there. I moved to LA right after I turned 24. And I only started doing stand up right after I turned 25. So like it's really only been 3 years. And I'm already at a point where I work for myself and I set my own hours and
Mhm.
I get to pursue these incredible opportunities. But it felt like it took forever. And I had
I
so
bet.
many nights that I would like lay up anxious about bills or whether or not this was going to work. What was I going to do? Because there was no parachute.
Yeah,
Like there was no fallback.
yeah,
Like I have nowhere to go. So like
yeah.
yeah, it's scary as shit and it's frustrating. It takes forever, but like once and I'm still like I feel like my legs are still a little wobbly
Mhm.
sometimes. But I like you get the longer you do it, the longer it goes on, the more confidence you get in it. And you're like, hey, like I realize that now. I have
Yeah.
this enormous need for people to tell me that it's okay for me to do things, which is so silly. But it's like a holdover from childhood, this enormous need for someone to give me permission
Mhm.
or tell me that I can do it, that I am
Yeah,
good enough, I can do I or at least that I can try.
yeah.
And the older I get, the more I realize that like nobody's ever said no. Like
It's true.
yeah, like the more you realize you're like, oh wait, I can do that actually. I
Yeah,
absolutely can.
yeah.
Um yeah, sometimes I had a therapist that told me to do that. Like, but she was like, list everything you've accomplished. Even the most like
Oof,
mundane shit.
oof.
Oh man, it feels really
You
good,
get into
dude.
that deep
Like
shit now. Okay.
write it down, like reference it on a rainy day, even if it's
Yeah,
like never missed my phone bill.
that's
Fucking like,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah.
Just like writing down literally like even like the smallest thing, like something you would think is like the
Yeah.
smallest thing. That's
Hmm.
crazy.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's powerful.
That's nuts. But
Yeah.
I do want to go back to something because you mentioned it yesterday a little bit, which is the biker gang. I thought you were joking when you said you were part of a biker gang yesterday. That's why I kind of like glossed over it. But you're serious. Can you
Yeah.
can you explain what that was like?
I was in a BDSM leather family of bikers for a while that's based out of Salt Lake City. When I was 21, I had just turned 20. No, I hadn't even turned 21 yet. I was 20 still. I started going down to this BDSM social club in Denver. I had just gone through a bad breakup, and I'd always been interested in kink and BDSM, which, if you don't know, I think everyone knows because they've seen 50 Shades of Grey, but bondage, discipline, sadism, masochism.
Or just porn in general.
Yeah, I was into the rough shit. Actually, when I was young and I was watching porn, I always liked like kink.com and the really rough, like, and I didn't know that people could like do that. Again, this goes back to Mish thing. I didn't know you could just do that. I thought you had to do porn. So for a very long time, when I was like 15, 16, I was like, maybe I should just do porn because that's the only way I'm going to get to.
Experience stuff.
Not true. So I went down and I went to this, it's like in this, it doubles as a theater during the day. It's in like a weird warehouse district. I thought I was going to get axe murdered. And I went in and I just met all of these wonderful people, and I like got into that community very quickly where I made all these friends. I ended up moving down to Denver after I finished school. I worked at the dungeon like one night a week. I checked IDs at the door. Like, it sounds like a really sexy story, but I like checked IDs and made sure that there was chips and salsa.
That's awesome though.
It's really cool. And so I got really involved in all of the community building, education. So I helped like teach classes, and I went to conventions all over the country. And it was just an awesome experience. I did it for like 2 years. And then when I was in Salt Lake City, so like the different kind of communities of BDSM and kink across the country, they obviously interact with each other, the different cities. So like Denver and Salt Lake City are very close because obviously geographically they're close. So they would come out and teach classes at our dungeon, and we would go there. And I met people through there. I ended up dating someone that was at that club, and they rode motorcycles, and that's what we did. They had a clubhouse. I still have my ID card somewhere. We had ID cards. And we would do these super long like bike trips. We went to Boise. We went to Reno. To go teach classes. It was so cool. Man. It was a really cool experience in my life.
Oh man. Yeah. That's awesome. Like just to be able to have that chapter in your life, like, oh my God, that must be amazing. What's like the most fun you had? Of, like, did you ever ride any bikes?
I always rode on the back. Had I stayed longer, I probably would have got my motorcycle license. I'm kind of glad I didn't, because now I'm 26 and I like would not get on a motorcycle.
Really?
Like to say, but no. I've had so many friends that get hurt or die that I'm like, no. It was fun, but yeah, I mean, I've gone 120 miles an hour through the desert and like reached my hand out and grazed the side of a semi truck, which is just like you're living. It's so fucking cool. Or like you spread your arms out on the back and like the eagles are like playing in your headphones, and you're like, oh, it's just like the sun. It was so fun. It would be like 4 of us, and we would go and teach these classes and just ride through the desert. We like ended up at a brothel in like Elko, Nevada one night, hanging out with all these hookers.
Crazy.
It was so much fun. Just like great adventures. Plus I look really cute in chaps.
But again, that's nuts. The fact that you were a part of like an actual like biker, you know what I mean? Like was it an actual gang, or was it like a club?
It's like a club. I mean, like if it was a biker gang, it would have been the lamest biker gang ever. I actually have my vest. I can show you really quick. It's over here. One second. Yeah, so this is what I used to wear.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so these are pins from conventions that I like worked at. I went to over the years. That
is amazing. How come you don't have that framed? How come you don't have it framed?
I know. And it's kind of like a thing too. You have to like earn the vest. Like I also have a pair of boots that were like gifted to me. Like I have a really beautiful pair of like Cochrane motorcycle boots. But yeah, I mean they're good memories in my life. They're fun. Awesome. I still talk to those people. We're still friends.
So awesome. Oh my God. So what was your most to go back to the adult film industry, what was your
Yeah.
most extreme scene that you've done, or the scene where you were just like, I kind of feel a little bit sketchy about this, but I kind of really want to do this.
I got waterboarded one time, which we talked about yesterday. It was for the company that I worked for, the first company that I worked for behind the scenes. They had wanted to do this as a scene, and couldn't find anybody else that was stupid enough to do it. And I was like,
So crazy.
okay,
So
here. It was
crazy.
so much fun. It's a terrifying. I mean, I came so fucking hard. But it's definitely a violation of the Geneva Convention. It's also a terrible fucking way to get military intelligence because I couldn't remember my own name after that. So whatever they're telling them at Gitmo, I would take it with a grain of salt. I would have told you anything.
Oh my god, that is nuts.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
like, even after you told me yesterday, I'm thinking to myself like, how the fuck does anybody really raise their hand to get waterboarded? Like that's so were you having sex while you were being waterboarded, or was it just like a foreplay kind of thing?
It was a vibrator. So that site, it's mostly like hardcore bondage. It's actually very little sex. We had one site that had boy-girl sex on it, and ended up not continuing to produce it because we're in Portland, and it was really hard to find male talent up there because female talent, you're always using someone different so you can fly them in. But generally, especially for something like that where it's dangerous, there's like inherent risk. You want the guy to, be very capable. And we just didn't have a male talent pool that could sustain that. So we killed that site, and the rest of the sites were toys, so like vibrators, dildos, that kind of stuff. But it was mostly the bondage and like the stress position. So in that scene, I'm also like in a 60-gallon like aquarium, and I'm like chained up in the bottom of it, and they put like a hose in and are like running water, and like there's a time lapse, so I like go under the water and I'm stuck under there. It was really awesome.
Nuts.
Yeah, it was warm water. We ran it from the sink, not to like destroy anyone's fantasy. It looks like a hose, but it's warm water. There's a lot of editing and cutting. It was a very safe, like I loved working there. I worked there for a year. They taught me so much. I wouldn't have trusted anybody else to do that scene. Like these were people that I saw every day. I watched their house when they were out of town. I fed their cats. Like, yeah.
So in the adult film industry, one of the main, or one of the, I guess, most talked about things, or one of the most questions that people, or frequently asked questions people have about the adult film industry, is the anal, which we talked about briefly yesterday. Speaking of the anal, I remember you told me you've never had an accident before, but to switch up the question from yesterday, have you actually seen an anal accident where people actually, shit?
I haven't. I'm not usually on set with, like, there's not, because if I'm on set with other girls, it's usually like an orgy or a threesome. And you don't usually do, for whatever reason. I don't know that I've ever, like, I have done one or two anal threesomes. I have been on sets, especially as a PA, where the girl was supposed to be doing anal and was like struggling to get everything cleaned out. And that's a very stressful situation.
I bet.
Because you don't want to hurt her feelings, and she's stressing because she doesn't want to like think that she's not capable and professional.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like the day's got to go on. And people's bodies are uncooperative sometimes. It's nobody's fault. So that can be very stressful. But no, I don't think I've ever seen like shit on set. Usually what happens is like if anything comes out, it's just like extra lube. Because it kind of is like a jelly, but it's clear. Like it's not gross. It's not dirty. It's just it's jelly.
Okay.
And they shoot around that too. Like because I've had that come out of my butt, and the guy's just like, "Don't worry about it. That's not a big deal."
We'll keep going.
It literally looks like Vaseline. It's like and it's just lube that's been inside you because you obviously use a lot of lube. You don't want to tear your asshole.
Yeah, I would assume.
Yes.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
I did have another question too about the adult film industry and like
Yeah.
being on set.
Mhm.
So we're gonna get into with this question, I want to talk a little bit more about Reality Kings because you shot for Reality Kings before, right?
Mhm.
And being on that set because they are I guess a mainstream porn site,
Mhm.
or a mainstream porn company or production company.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? Because I mean, I'm pretty sure you knew going into walking in through the doors to shoot for Reality Kings. You're like, were you like nervous? Were you like, I'm shooting for Reality Kings? Or were you just like, was it just like another day in porn? Like,
No, it was a big deal. It was also last minute. I think I got it like the night before because a girl had dropped out,
mhm.
which happens pretty frequently. And actually someone like left a mean comment about me one time, which I thought was so fucking funny. They were like, Kate Kennedy is the porn performer that you call last minute on a Thursday to do anal because the hotter girl dropped out.
Please tell me you touched on that on your podcast. Please
Hilarious.
tell me you addressed that person on your podcast.
I haven't, yeah, I did message him on Pornhub and I was like, will you please? I haven't heard back. But I think I commented under it and I was like, yeah, bitch, I work every Thursday.
That
Like,
is.
I don't give a shit. Like, money is money. Like, if I can show up last minute, I don't give a shit. So like it was last minute, I got it, and it was with Johnny Sins and Kaylani Lee, who are both
Johnny
huge.
Sins. Holy shit.
He and I are like good friends now. He's a
That is
lovely, lovely
fucking
person.
awesome.
Yeah, just super chill, like really laid back guy, like just professional, fun to hang out with. Like he actually lives pretty close to me, I think, unless he's moved. But like, yeah, no, super nice guy. So I was really nervous. It was way different than other sets that I'd been on, just in terms of like quality. Like my makeup was beautiful. It took a very long time. They provided all the wardrobe. So they had it laid out. Everything was brand new with the tags on it. They had like multiple dress range trying, which compared to like most porn sites, like you bring your own wardrobe and you provide everything from tights, pantyhose, underwear, bra, dress, shoes, anything. That's that whole closet that I just walked in there to get that. That's what that closet was for.
Oh, okay.
It was to hold all my porn wardrobe. Which
awesome.
I've since kind of like liquidated. Now it's just full of crap. Yeah, so it was a very different experience, but the director was lovely. It was a really fun day. Actually, I think it was 2 days. It was a 2-day shoot.
Okay.
Yeah, but I remember them ordering us all like they ordered us all lunch, like really nice, which normally doesn't happen either.
That's upscale right there.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we got tender greens. It was fucking dope. Like,
what's tender greens?
It's oh, do you guys not have that in Florida?
No.
I know they have them on the East Coast.
I don't know.
It's kind of like a very healthy, like you can mix and match your proteins. So like you pick like the steak plate and then you can pick like different sides. So I always get steak with the mashed potatoes and then they have this like arugula lemon vinaigrette salad. And it's so good. And everything's like really healthy. They have like steak, chicken, salmon, and then all these cool different kinds of sides and salads. They have really good lemonade. It's nice because you feel like you get like a whole meal. But I think it's like $13-14 for like the plate, which is not bad.
See, in Florida, we have just a whole bunch of like Chick-fil-A's and Popeyes like on every corner. That's pretty much Orlando.
I like Chick-fil-A.
The other half of Orlando is just Disney. So
I haven't been to Orlando since like 1998.
Holy shit.
It was the last time I went there. I went with my family. We went to Disney World.
I've lived here for 2 years and have yet to go to Disney World. So, and I have no reason to go. So,
honestly, you don't. Like, I lived here for a year before I went to Disneyland, and I finally went. I had never been, and I was like, "Oh, it's cool. It's not $250 cool."
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not like it's.
And then you spend another like $150, $200 on like food because the food's really good. Like Disney food's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
But it's expensive, and then like You have to wait in all the lines. I waited in line for Space Mountain. So this is a totally true story. When I went to Disney
shit.
World in 1998, I had like a Mickey Mouse viewfinder with the little wheel. And I had one of Space Mountain, and I would sit at home in Dallas where I live at the time, and I was like obsessed with Space Mountain. I'm like 4, so I'm very little. I'm too little to go on it. And I was devastated.
Oh my God.
Especially because my dad went back to the park and went alone. He does this thing. It's so funny. This is my favorite thing about my dad. He likes to vacation hardcore. Like, we went to Ireland and he saw every fucking castle in Ireland.
Oh my gosh.
And after you've seen like 3 of them, they're all the same.
Really?
Yeah, but everyone else gets exhausted because he wants to hit every museum, every cultural site. He made us walk like the whole Freedom Trail when we were like 7, like in Boston. And we're just like crying because it's long.
You're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, he's like, don't be a wimp. When I was a kid, we camped outside in Ottawa and it was -20 and we didn't have shoes. He's a we didn't have shoes uphill both ways kind of guy.
Oh, okay.
And so he will leave you. He will abandon you at the hotel and he will go and then he takes pictures. This is my favorite thing. He has other people. He gives his camera to other people and has him take pictures of him at tourist sites alone. So it's my dad on Space Mountain alone. My dad. Oh, totally. It's so he's not gonna fucking let his 2 toddlers and his wife slow him down. He's going to fucking Tower of Terror, man. He came all the way to Florida.
That's OG though. That's OG though.
Yeah,
I like that.
He paid for this shit. Yeah. So it's like him at the Grand Canyon alone. Him at a fort in Ireland alone. Like, and he loves it. Like, he loves it. It's so funny.
Awesome.
Yeah, and like I remember we went to Hawaii. I was 18. I like just graduated college, and we went for a long time. We went for like a couple of weeks, and by like the 3rd day, we're on Kauai, which is a very like laid back island. He was like, I think people just come here to chill out. I was like, yeah, you fucking think? Like, what? We already saw both lighthouses. This island is 20 miles long. It's 20 miles. That's it. You can cross the whole thing in under a half an hour.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah, it's very funny. He had a very hard time for the rest of that trip. He cannot relax. It's so funny.
It's weird how, like, when you're kids, maybe not for you, like right now, but it's weird how, like, when you're kids, you look at vacation as like, okay, we're going on vacation. I get it. You know, dad or mom has like a week or so off. We're going to go do this, whatever. But like when you get older, you start appreciating like your time off, like vacations and like stuff like that. Like to me, like right now, I'm like, I just found out like maybe 2 weeks ago at my job. I'm like, wait a minute, we get vacations? Like I didn't even know we got vacations until 2 weeks ago. I've been there for a year. And I was like, wait a minute, we get vacations?
Oh, you got some days then.
Yeah, I'm like, hold up. I need to go like look and see what days and stuff I have. I need to start planning some stuff. Even though, I mean, we're in COVID right now, so can't do shit anyways. But, you know, just the fact that, you know, I'm like, all right, once all this bullshit's over, I'm going to go fucking somewhere. And I might not even come back. Like, I'm at this point in my life, I'm not even back when I go on vacation.
I took my first vacation as an adult last year. It was like the first time I could afford to take a vacation. It was incredible. I went to New York for 2 weeks. Ooh. It was amazing. I had like met somebody and like online, like on Twitter, and like we had started talking, and then I was like, I was gonna go to New York anyways, and it was really cute because he told me afterwards. He's like, yeah, as soon as I found out you're gonna be in New York, he's like, I hollered at my roommate, I'm gonna ask the hot girl on a date. And yeah, no, I mean, we met up and it was kind of this little New York fling. And I just spent sort of 2 weeks in New York, like madly in love, like making out with this cute boy at museums and in Central Park. And we went dancing at like a jazz speakeasy on the Upper West Side and like drank martinis.
Your life is like a movie at this point.
That one felt like a movie. That was really, yeah.
Your life literally, if you look at like just the events that have happened in the past, like 5 years in your life. Like it's literally like a movie.
Yeah. I would watch that movie. I mean, I don't know if I'd watch it the way it actually played out. I would watch a dramatization.
Yeah, if it was dramatized more, I'm sure anybody would watch their movie if it was dramatized. But like yours is just so adventurous though. Like seriously. Like I'm like,
it's
damn.
Fun. It's fun to like throw yourself off cliffs.
It's crazy. Yeah. But to go back to Reality King shoot.
Yeah.
I don't know, we go all over the place. It's gonna happen eventually.
Yeah.
But but to go back to Reality King's shoot, like, so why did it take 2 days? Was it the same scene or was it 2 different scenes? How did that work?
It was 2 different scenes and they got stitched together. So the first day it was me and Kaylani and it was a girl scene.
Kaylani Kai or Kaylani Lay? Lay? Okay.
Lay. I think it's Lay. She's very nice. It was the only time I met her, but she was lovely. But it was a scene where, and it was very obvious I was replacing someone too because she's Asian. And like normally they try to have like the stepdaughter even though it's a step thing, they try. Yeah, it was very obvious that I was replacing someone. I guess the premise of the scene was that Johnny is my boyfriend and I'm so bad at giving head that he's gonna break up with me. So I had to do like a fake really bad blowjob with like my teeth where I was like it was so fun. I was laughing hysterically. Like I could not keep my face straight.
How do you orchestrate that though? How do you orchestrate that with like the Johnny Sins to like, hey, I'm gonna give you a really bad blowjob, but without like pissing him off? You know what I mean? So do you guys like talk about that beforehand or what?
Oh, he's such a professional. He's truly just like one of the most like on it. Like you know when you occasionally meet people where you're like, you are doing exactly the job that you're meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of those people. Like he's great. I didn't actually put my teeth on it. I also have veneers, so actually my teeth are really dull. So I couldn't bite you if I wanted to. I have no bite strength. So it was kind of just like this.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. You know, and it was very short because it's obviously like no one's gonna masturbate to that. It's for the setup. And even when we were filming, I was like, this is embarrassing. Like this is gonna be embarrassing. But then so like Kaylani sees this happen and she's like, you know, sweetie, like maybe you just need some practice. And of course, like pulls out her big pink strap on and teaches me how to suck dick. And then the next time he comes over, we all have a threesome.
Oh, totally. So that was day 2.
So that was day 2. So Johnny was there on day 2, and the first day was me and Kaylani. Yeah, totally normal, reasonable scenario. Happens all the time in real life. The only maternal bone I've ever had in my body was my stepmom's strap-on.
Hey, I mean, it's something. Everybody has a wild story. Everybody's got a wild story.
Yeah.
Maybe even 2.
I got a feel. No, it was a very fun scene. I really enjoyed it. They were lovely to work for. I really didn't have, I mean, there's always going to be people that you don't like mesh with super well. And that's true in any job, but those were really, really few and far between. A lot of times in porn, I worked with the same people. Like there are people that I've shot 4, 5, 6 scenes with, where then you're just showing up on set and it's like all your buddies. You're like, hey guys, let's do it.
What's up, guys?
Another
day at the office, huh?
Yeah. Like my first DP was with like Steve Holmes, Ramon Namar, and John Strong. And I hadn't worked with John before, but he's lovely. He's like this little Russian, just dynamo. And I'd worked with Steve and Ramon several times. Ramon ended up doing my first anal for a different site. And he's wonderful to work with as well. So yeah, that day on set was just easy breezy. It was for like Dana Vespoli for Evil Angel. I got to play a Catholic schoolgirl that gets banged by 3 priests. I wanted to be an altar server, and they said that was too hot button. I was not allowed. Damn. I thought that would have been so funny.
And it's weird that porn has kind of restraints a little bit when it comes to that stuff, because it's just like, did you guys not notice that like 5 years ago, Mia Khalifa, that scene that she got in trouble over with, like, come on. I mean, and she still got away with it. Like, I mean, come on.
Thank God she did. That's my opening joke. I don't know what I would do without that. I don't care how much shit she talks about porn. She gave me the perfect opening joke. I will be in debt to her forever. It's this brilliant little joke, and it's, do you think that Salman Rushdie was mad that he had to write the entire satanic verses in order to get a fatwa declared against him when all Mia Khalifa had to do was suck dick in a hijab? And it's a perfect opening joke because it tells you everything that you need to know about the audience. It tells you their education level, what kind of porn they watch, like how comfortable they are.
Watch porn.
The fact they watch porn. Well, and more importantly, it tells you whether or not they are susceptible enough to peer pressure to laugh at a reference that they don't really get.
Yeah.
Because I can see in the audience who doesn't know who Salman Rushdie is. But they'll laugh anyways because the guy next to them also doesn't know and thinks he's supposed to.
And they're like, oh, he's laughing.
Exactly. So that like tells you everything. I was explaining that joke to another comic the other night, and I was like, that's why I do that. And he was like, wait a second, like that's really, really smart. And I was like, I know. You're welcome. I didn't initially realize how much information that gave me. I learned over time. Because I do just love that joke. I think it's so fun and it's so quick. And I
it's a witty joke.
It's witty. I like reference-based humor. I've been accused of it being a little elitist. It absolutely is. I had to read the satanic verses. It's a really fucking hard book to get through. It was not pleasant. I had to read it for a class in college. I did not like it at all. But it gave me a great joke, so it was worth it.
That's true. About the adult entertainment industry as well. So a little bit on I wouldn't necessarily say the dark side, but a little bit on the like the negative side of the adult film industry. I did want to know about. So we talked about yesterday about how some women they have that pressure, right? And some women, like you mentioned yesterday, like you've met some of the newbies, and maybe they might have not been newbies, but females that and performers that have been like have given you that vibe that like they're not meant to be in the business. Did you want to talk just a little bit more about that, like in terms of like how do you tell that they're not ready for the business? How do you tell that they or do you just get that vibe from it? Like there's no like real initial like action or like feeling that they have. It's just you're just like, all right, fam, like you got to run away. Like you got to go back. You don't got to go home, but you got to leave. You got to go somewhere. Like you're not meant for this. Like how do you get that feeling?
I think that almost no matter who you are, if you're 18 and you've moved across the country to a huge city where you don't know anybody, almost inherently, I couldn't have done this when I was 18. I started in it when I was 24. I wouldn't have started. I'm so glad I didn't when I was 18. It's a really high pressure environment. You're out here all alone. It's a job that's very stigmatizing. So you probably don't have like the support of your family behind you. And you're constantly being put in this position where you're just being lavished with praise. I mean, it's Hollywood. People will say anything to you to get what they want. Like that's the game. And once you've lived here for a little while and you know that, it's fine. And you can have relationships and friendships. And you're always a little aware in the back of your head. Like that doesn't always go away. Where you're like, okay, like this person would probably sell me down the river for like a career opportunity, like if the right, I had somebody come up to me after I did like Tom Segura's show at an open mic. I was there right after the show had come out, and he came up to me and we're good friends, and he was like, I'm really happy for you, but I just want you to know that I would stab my mother for that show. Not fatally, but I would stab my mother.
At least they're honest. At least they're honest.
Like, Newman, you love your mom. I know your mom. And I mean that's what it is. And especially in porn, like you're often on set, like most other people that work in it that aren't necessarily performers, and even some performers are going to be double your age. They've been doing this for a really long time, and the fact is, like, you are kind of disposable until you're a big name. Even for me, like, I was never anyone that was important enough in porn to be kind of given that rarefied status. Actually, like when I started doing stand-up, that was when I started getting better gigs in porn. just because people started to know me for that. But yeah, no, I mean, you're putting yourself in a really vulnerable position. And it all comes down to too, like the way you learn porn, it's not a job that has any job training. We really do throw these people to the sharks and like expect them to swim. And some of them do. Like I've met 18-year-olds that were so competent and wise beyond their years and doing phenomenal. But it's one in maybe 1,000. You know, it's so rare. And I do just think like I've always been a huge proponent of performer education. I'm a believer in raising the shooting age to 21. It won't ever happen. But I do think it would help. And yeah, I mean, it's just, you got to know what you're getting into when you do something like this, because it can be a great experience and it can be something that really sets you up for the rest of your life. It can be it can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is, and this is true in porn, it's true in stand-up, it's true in acting and music, it's true in anything. People are gonna try to take advantage of you. And you gotta be really fucking tough to not let that happen. And you have to be like tough and you have to be graceful. Yeah. Like you have to know how to set a boundary without throwing a fit or being a diva, like even when you kind of deserve to. Like I've been on sets where the way I was being treated, I deserved to throw a fit. You know, it wasn't cool.
Crazy.
But you don't do it because you don't want to get a reputation. You know that like people aren't going to hear the story about it the way that you experienced it. You really have to be able to weigh every possible consequence of your actions and then choose like what course of action you're going to take. And that's a cognitive skill that doesn't develop with your brain till you're 24, 25.
That's and that kind of sparked what we were talking about yesterday as well. Like when you mentioned like a tweet that you made about like pretty much how, hey, here's how you don't put yourself in this particular situation. And but not like in a malice way, not like being like malicious. You know what I mean? And that's when I gave you the example yesterday about how like in the professional wrestling business, like there is someone that literally got canceled that's like a producer of a wrestling show because he invited a girl out because she wanted to progress in production of you know the professional wrestling business. And he was like, hey fam, come out to my place. Freshly 18-year-old chick from like the other side of the country to go to LA to go live with him, to stay with him until she found a place. And I'm thinking to myself, like, that's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Like, fam, like you can, and again, not victim shaming or anything, but like,
not at all.
You can eliminate that process. Like, you can literally just eliminate that part of your process.
Absolutely. And that thread, and I acknowledged this from the minute I wrote it, because it was about, there was a kind of a cancellation going on in porn with someone that had done similar stuff. And I was mad. Like I was reading these stories by girls that I knew, and I was pissed off. Like this pissed me off. But I've never heard a story like that where I couldn't see 5 different ways to get yourself out of that situation before it turned into what it is. And it's not your fault that you don't see those like pathways. It's not yours at all. And so in the tweet, like the thread, I had said, you know, if it is never your fault if this happens to you. I'm not saying that these are strategies that work 100% of the time, every single time, and that if something happens to you, you're bad and you deserve it at all. But to me, this whole like this is my issue with like this whole cancel culture thing, is that like advocacy without that doesn't acknowledge harm reduction is just virtue signaling, and that's very dangerous. Because to me, I would rather tell these girls, and also that's the other thing, you're in this situation where like people don't tell you what's okay and what's not. Like they don't tell you that yes, it's absolutely okay to stop a scene. It's absolutely okay to speak up and say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this. Can we compromise?
Yeah.
That's always what I tell new girls. I'm like, I've never, ever had a set where I asked for some kind of like compromise or accommodation where the director said anything but thank you.
Yeah.
For speaking up. And there's a way to do that that's professional, that's polite, and that holds your ground. And those are life skills that come with being an adult. You learn them in business. I was sexually harassed so much more in every other job I've ever had besides porn.
That is
So
nuts.
much
That's
more.
crazy.
So much more. Restaurants, gyms, offices, so much more.
Wait. You say gyms?
I worked at a gym all through college.
And you got
Like
harassed at a gym?
all the time. I worked at a country club. It was mostly older male members.
Please tell. Please tell. I want to know this one. I want to hear this.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would get guys, you know, sweetheart, are you so pretty? At this point, actually, 50 Shades of Grey had come out, and I had bangs kind of like this, and so like guys, oh, you look like that girl from 50 Shades of Grey, and then kind of say it in a way, and I was like, or they'd like wait late, and I'd be like, your wife is outside at the pool with your kids, like I fucking know you, like
Okay, but
simmer.
the 50 Shades of Grey comment, I can see
Yeah.
that. But like the comp, like the you're so pretty,
Yeah.
is that really harassment though? I don't really call that harassment though.
When you're in an empty building and it's late at night and you are a 19-year-old
Ooh,
girl
yeah.
with a very wealthy multimillionaire who's a member at the country club who's
That
saying
is-
these, yeah, you're in a vulnerable
oh my
position.
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. And whether or not he knew that I was, like, you know, obviously that's a scary thing. And like nothing super, super bad ever happened to me there. But it was uncomfortable. And I also had men just treat me like I was stupid. Or like there was a guy that was, I will never forget this for the rest of my life.
Oh,
He
hell.
he was such a jerk. And he was like East Coast Italian guy. And older, like in his 70s. And he was really, really stubborn. He was always mean. And he was convinced that there was a gas leak in the cardio room. And there wasn't. The cardio room was next to the pool. And the pool had an HVAC system that occasionally caused a little bit of blowback. It's not a fucking gas leak. I know what a gas leak is. And so I explained this entire thing over and over and over. Mr. Bogosi, I'm sorry. Like, this is what it is. And he's like, you're like, you don't know that. You're in danger. He's like, I don't want to talk to you. He wanted to talk to a man. So, like, I call Mike from maintenance, and I'm like, Mike, I got Mr. Bogosi here. Fucking, like, please help me. And Mike comes in, says verbatim what I had told him 5 times. And Mr. Bogosi walks out, and he's fine. And I was just, I've never been more frustrated. And Mike came in, and I just, like, had my head on the counter. He's like, I'm sorry. I was like, fucking asshole. Like, I got, like, fucking jerk. I loved that job. It was a great job. I worked there all through school. It was great because they sold us food at cost from the kitchen, and they had a great kitchen. So I like ate all of my meals there in college.
Oh man.
Because it was literally cheaper. You could get like a huge hamburger with fries and like salad for $3. It was cheaper because they charged us what they paid for the food, and they paid for the food wholesale.
Yeah.
So it was cheaper to just eat at work, and I would like order meals to go. If they had buffets, we'd get to take extra.
Oh my God, that's so
It
awesome.
was great. Yeah, no, it's like I would not have eaten in college if it wasn't for that, because I didn't make a lot of money working there. But no, it was great. It was fun. I got a really good internship out of that later. So yeah, my sister ended up working there for a long time.
Damn, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Hashtag connections.
Right. Networking.
So all right, so I think that the problem is that like in this day and age, I think it's just the guy, like us men are not aware. Like just to caveat off of what you said, like we're just not aware that like women are, but like the more stuff that comes out and the more that we start realizing that, all right, women, like this is, I think what we need is just like a woman to like sit us down and to say like, hey, this is when we feel uncomfortable. This is when we don't. Like,
yeah,
I think because there's like a huge gap in between there. Like there's a huge gap in between like men and women where we think women aren't uncomfortable, and to the point where women are uncomfortable. Like, but we just don't know.
I think it gets down to the way that we socialize men and women, because as women, we're very much socialized to be polite and, you know, kind of be like, oh yeah, okay, and engage a little bit. Because like if I'm not into someone and they're talking to me, I'm not gonna just be like.
See, I wish women would be like that though. You know what I mean? Like, but not when to me personally, but you know what I mean? Like, I wish, because like I'm not the only person. Like years ago, like I want to say maybe 3 years ago, like we started. I don't want to say we, but like us as like men, we started realizing, we started seeing stuff like that, where it's just like women aren't as like honest. And like me personally, I love someone that's like, I like being honest. I'm a straight shooter. So it's like whenever I approach a chick, it's just like I would expect them to be a straight shooter as well. But we know that's not gonna happen. Like we know for a fact that's never gonna happen.
Well, it's not going to happen because like there's a not small chance that a man's going to react very negatively to that.
That's true. That's true.
I've had men cry
what?
because I wouldn't. Yeah, I had a guy one time, was like a male comic, and he was very, very into me, and we're hanging out. We were friends. We weren't very close friends, and we'd only hung out a couple of times, and we were drinking. I mean, we're at the we're at the club, and everybody's. I mean, it's comedy, so it's a Peroni and a shot of Jameson, and and I like drink with the boys, like I keep up, and so he's hammered, and he's like, I just like you so much, and he starts crying. He's like, I want to get married, I want to get a farm in Georgia, I have 2 kids, and he just starts full on crying. Cause I'd been like, you're really nice, you're a good friend, but I don't feel the same way about you because we've hung out twice. Like, and then I felt so bad because he was so sad that I like made out with him later just to like cheer him up.
No,
he was so sad. I know, he was so sad. He was so happy.
Terrible.
He was so happy after that. I know, and then I ended up as a joke in his set for like a year, which ended up being way more embarrassing for me. But no, I mean, we're, especially for me, like I less so in porn, although I've definitely heard of it happen. I never really like dated or got involved with anybody in porn. Mm-hmm. Most of the guys that I worked with were married or in relationships. I very rarely like worked with single guys, and they weren't, porn guys don't really float my boat. Like they're sweet, they're nice, but they're not. Yeah, I have a type, and so like, but especially like in the comedy world, I've noticed is that like there's been guys that have asked me out, and I don't shit where I eat, so I'm like, no,
yeah, I mean, yeah.
Or just like, I'm allowed to not be attracted to you and we could still be friends. And like, I've had guys where I've turned them down, and I like knew in that moment, I was like, great, you're never going to book me on your show. This just cost me professional career opportunities. And I know that. And that sucks. That's shitty. Like,
that is.
Yeah.
Because I think about that. I think about that a lot too, because there is like in the industry that I'm looking to go into, which is obviously wrestling, another form of entertainment, where it's like, man, there are going to be some times, because you hear about all these stories, like you hear about all the women's stories, but the more and more like that I've studied the industry, it's like I hear a lot of men's stories too, like stories about men too, where they're like, there is, so-and-so's ex-wife is the owner of such and such company. And it's like, you don't turn this down from so-and-so. You don't turn that down. But it's just like, fam, at the end of the day, it's like, if it's something that I really love, like what I honestly don't know, even till this day, like I don't know what I would do. Like I'm to the point where I don't know how I would react, because it's like, it's like, take this pill in order, if you really want your dream to come true, take this pill. But it's just like, if you don't take it, it's like, man, like you'll never be booked on for that wrestling show ever again. You'll never get to this point ever again. Like this, like your only way. And it's just like, man, like,
that person that I have to have a professional relationship with has a bad taste in their mouth about me, whether or not that's fair. And I am the one that deals with the fallout. Because even if I do, like, I fuck you and you book me on your show, everybody is going to know that you booked me because I fucked you.
True.
Like it's a lose-lose situation for me.
Yeah.
And one thing that it really bothers me because I have a lot of male friends, I always have, and I like being friends with men. I feel like if you wanted to like date somebody or even like have like a sexual relationship with them, you should want to like be their friend. And I've had so many men be like, when I turn them down for a sexual relationship or a relationship, that they didn't want to be my friend anymore. And that like really hurts. It bothers me. I'm like, you should want to be I'm a dope fucking friend. Like, I won't pick you up at the airport, but like, because LAX is terrible, I'll pick you up at Burbank. But like I'm a really fucking good friend. Like I go out of my way to help my friends. I will be there if you need me. I will call you. Like I'm a good friend and I'm an interesting person and I'm a nice person. And like, just because, and honestly too, like a lot of the times when I've turned people down, like I was going through my own stuff. I didn't have, and I would tell them, I'm like, I don't have time in the day to date
Yeah.
somebody. It's just not my focus. I don't
Yeah.
want to get distracted. And like the fact that I should be punished for taking my career seriously or caring about something else is just mind-boggling to me. And it still happens. Every time I go to the club, I see at least one or two people and I'm like, I know you don't like me and I know why. Sorry, I did not want to have your babies.
That is ridiculous. Like, I understand the fact that I can understand, like, in the industry, how that is detrimental to certain avenues for a career. But for like a stranger or somebody, on to the next. You know, it's like you can make friends anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, especially having that female advantage and having the attractive female advantage. Now, I'm not saying like use your attractiveness to make friends, but at the same time, you're gonna be more likely to make friends. Male or female.
I will say that like I hang out at one bar. Like I hang out at one place. Like I don't I don't go out to like I will occasionally with friends, but like it's not, I don't go out trying to meet people. Those are like, that's my whole world is like stand-up comedy in LA. That's everybody that I know. Some of those people are my emergency contact. Probably not super wise. But
don't worry, my parents aren't mine either, so it's okay.
Well, my parents don't live here, and also I have no faith that they would answer their phones. My mother never answers her phone. Like, she's so bad about it. There were multiple instances when I was a kid where like I would get left somewhere because she would like forget, and they would be trying to call my mom, and she would be like, I remember she left me at middle school one time for like 4 hours. I walked home in the snow. I got home. She's like, oh my God, I'm sorry. I was making bread.
Oh my God.
I was like, I'm really cold, Mom. I didn't bring a jacket today. It's a freak snowstorm, and I just walked 2 miles. But then I got to eat the bread. And it was really good bread. So
all was forgiven.
It was. I mean, on her, not really. I mean, I'm still telling that story, and it's been like 15 years. So like,
there's still a little bit of salt there. There's still just a little bit of salt there.
A little bit.
So let's talk about a little bit about like your life. Like, you came from Colorado, a very small town in Colorado, and now you live literally in Hollywood. Not like, oh, they call that Hollywood. It's not. No, you live in Hollywood, which still, it's only been like 24 hours since you told me, and I'm just like, my mind is blown. Like, I'm like, you live in Hollywood. Tell us, first of all, what is the atmosphere like, first of all, and second of all, craziest story.
So I live in East Hollywood. I'm not afraid of anyone coming to murder me because the mob influence is very strong here in Little Armenia. East Hollywood is a great place to live if you're young and creative and you feel like New York was more fun in the 70s before Giuliani killed all the hookers. If the thing that you were missing about New York was like the broken heroin needles and the dirty mattresses and the influence of organized crime, East Hollywood's where it's at, man. I love it. I have rent control. I have cool neighbors. We never call the police here because they don't show up. If you call the East Hollywood Police Department, it goes to voicemail.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. I live very close to a lot of stuff that I do here, which is great. I have a beautiful view. I love Hollywood. Hollywood's very much not in vogue right now in LA. It's not like where people want to live. It's not like the hip. Like, they tell you when you're growing up that the streets of Hollywood are paved with gold, but they don't tell you that it's actually hobo piss.
That is, man.
It's gritty. It's gritty and I like it. It's very real. It's very, very diverse, which I love. My neighborhood is predominantly like Russian Orthodox and Guatemalan. But I also live
That's
right
a great
near
mixture too of like cultures. Like
it's very
you
strange.
wouldn't
And
think that.
if you go 2 blocks up, it's all Thai. If you go 3 blocks down, it's Koreatown. There's little
Mm.
Bangladesh. There's yeah, there I mean, LA is such a diverse city. It's so cool because you really can like anything you want to see or get.
Any
You
kind of
can hear
culture, yeah.
any kind of culture. It's really, really cool. I love it. Um, Generally people are nice. I mean, I really like it. My neighbors all know me. I live in a cool building that's mostly people in their 20s and 30s that are working creative jobs. There's a lot of writers and artists. There's a really great chef. Will Ferrell comes and gets breakfast at my building sometimes. Um,
Is he really that tall?
I've never seen him. She never
Oh,
tells
okay.
me when he's here. My neighbor does like for during quarantine, like a bucket drop. She makes homemade breakfast sandwiches and hot sauce. She's from Alabama. It's fucking bomb. She's really cool. And so she like puts them in a bucket and throws it off our fire escape, and people like line up socially distanced to get
No
these
way.
incredible breakfast sandwiches. Yeah, you can reserve them on Instagram.
That's like some neighborhood, like 70s, like neighborhood shit. Like,
It's Hollywood like stopped in the 70s. I'm convinced. Like we all still dress that way too. Like I wear a lot of like bell-bottom jeans and like
jeez
crochet.
Louise.
All of my friends dress like that.
That is,
We all get all of our clothes at like the flea market in like Silver
oh man.
Lake. Um no, it's wild. Yeah, he like comes and waits outside my building for one of my neighbor's breakfast sandwiches.
That is
Um
nuts.
Yeah. But it's such a cool place. It's so quirky. It's so weird. It's kind of gross, which I like. Um, Big cities are kind of gross in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have a little bit of a strong stomach. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, I absolutely love it. It's every day I wake up and I look out my window and I just can't believe that I get to from like such a small place that I come
Yeah.
from. Just to have gone so far is like it's wild. Like it feels really good. I never want to not feel really grateful to be here.
That's how I feel about Orlando because it's just
Mhm.
like, it's like so many people. I've met so many people within the past year. So, like, man, I can't believe I'm in Orlando. I'm thinking to myself, like, man, really? Like, I fucking hate this place. But it's just like, there is like a certain like um atmosphere that comes with not just Orlando itself, but a big city, like just
Yeah.
living in a big city, just
It's like
because there is
anything's
so much culture and
possible.
stuff. Yeah.
There's always something right around the corner. That's what I love about New York too, is that you can just turn any corner in New York and there'll be something like magical.
I've
Uh,
never I've never been in New York, and I've always had this like, I don't know, like I've always not hated New York, but I've always like thought to myself like, New York, really? Do I really want to like? Because I've had a couple times where I could have gone to New York, and I'm just like, nah, not really. Like, because I just hear how like busy and how crowded New York City is, and just like how, I was like, New York City, no.
it's
Maybe
not
some
that
certain parts of
bad.
New York, but
It
New York
it
City is just,
I hate Times Square. I When I was in New York that for that vacation, because I knew a couple other girls that were also in New York that week, and we were getting drinks in Midtown, and we went through Times Square, and it's so funny because I like standing in front of crowds on the stage. I cannot stand being in crowds. I don't go to concerts. I don't go to rave. I don't like it. It makes me so nervous. Um, I'll panic.
especially in
And
2020. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this was 2019, but still, like, Times Square is my fucking worst nightmare. It is all giant bright lights flashing everywhere. There's thousands of people. People are yelling at you. Like, guys are yelling at you on the street. Like, there's fake cartoon characters trying to take pictures. It's so overwhelming. I had a panic attack. I started to have a panic attack, and my friend that I was with was like, "I have a Xanax. Do you want a Xanax?" Stupid, stupid, stupid. And I was like, yeah. So I
Oh
take this,
no.
I know, and I'd had a couple drinks, so unwise. I started crying. I ended up at the Central Park ice skating rink at like 11:30 at night, alone, crying. And I'm calling this guy that I just met, who I'm so Twitter pated with. And I'm like, can you come get me? I went to Times Square and I'm really sad.
Oh no.
And
Oh
to his
no.
credit, that boy came and got me at the Central Park ice skating rink. I was a mess. Took me to like some little pub, got me a shepherd's pie, which is my ultimate comfort food. And now every time he sees shepherd's pie, he's like, okay. He was such a trooper and continued to see me for months after that. I would not have blamed him for not. Nothing about it was cute. But a lot of the other parts of New York are New York was far less crowded than I thought it was going to be.
Really?
Yeah.
New York
and
City or the state?
New York City, Manhattan.
Really?
Yeah, I stayed in Midtown at first, and then I stayed on the Upper West Side. And I love the Upper West Side. It's not like the hippest part of town, but great food. It's like a historically like Jewish neighborhood, so fucking killer delis.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Like old brownstones. Central Park is beautiful, especially because like if you're in New York on like vacation, you're not working normal hours, so you can be out during the day, and kind of miss like the rush hour of traffic. But no, I mean, I went to almost every museum. The only one I missed was MoMA. I went to like the Whitney, the Frick, the Natural History Museum, the Guggenheim, the Historical Society. I'm a big museum person.
Oof. I can't even tell you the last time I went to a museum.
Oh, I love them. They're so fun.
I'm intrigued by them. I'm not like a big like let's go to a museum today, but I am very intrigued with just history. Just
New York is a great one because I mean the Natural History Museum in New York is incredible. They have that giant blue whale that's like very famous. That's over like the ocean exhibit, which I thought was a real whale until I was literally standing under it. Like my whole life, I'd seen pictures of it in like textbooks and shit. I don't know. It's made of fiberglass. Like it's not real at all. Like you can't really taxidermy a whale. I don't know why I thought you could, but like we're literally standing there and he goes, like he's with me. He's like, that's not real. I was like, what? And my worldview crashed around my eyes.
I don't know. In this day and age, it's possible. I feel like it's possible to do that.
I think that whale's been there since like the 30s. 40s. Oof. It's very old. It's been refurbished. It's enormous. It's still very cool. But yeah, I mean that's where they did like Night at the Museum. Like
okay.
So yeah, it's that's just like an incredible place. I also was an art history major in college, so like I had written papers about like the Guggenheim. And then we went to the Whitney and they had the Andy Warhol retrospective.
Yeah.
Which I'd written so many papers, but like it was so cool. I was getting to see stuff that I had like read about in books my whole life, and that was just incredible.
Andy Warhol, he's a guy that inspired what's that guy? Basquiat, right?
Basquiat?
Yeah. He's the one that inspired him, right?
I actually just missed the Basquiat retrospective, had been like the week before.
Ooh.
I was so bummed that I missed it.
I had to study him in college too. Like yeah, oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah, he's a crazy story.
Yes.
He's really young and like in New York, just like this very like punk kind of like, yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. He also inspired like Andy Warhol inspired the Velvet Underground and Lou Reed. They were all there. Yeah. Like Max's Kansas City. Okay. I pulled off this little con in high school just for funsies. So my like freshman year of high school, I had to write an English paper. And I chose to write about Andy Warhol and the factory scene in the 60s. And so I wrote this paper and turned it in, whatever. And I had a history paper that was going to be due like very soon afterwards. And I didn't have enough time to research another paper. So I was like, all right, I'll rewrite the paper and see if anybody notices. And nobody did. So I like kind of, you give me an inch, I'll take a mile. So I just started kind of playing this game where I was like, how many times can I like tweak this a little bit? I turned that paper in like 7 goddamn times in high school.
Oh my
I
god.
rewrote it for English. I wrote it for history. I wrote it for art. I wrote it for, I think I wrote for like civics one time, like comparing like like communal living. Like I wrote that goddamn paper over and over. No one ever caught me, and I got an A every single time.
Oh my god.
And to
Oh
be
my
fair, it
god.
was a different paper. It was a
Genius.
different paper. I just used all the same research, and I by the end of it, I knew it so well. And I'm sure, and I had the same teachers that I would like turn this into because it was a small school. And I like they must have at the end, like I graduated, they're probably like, "What the fuck was that Andy Warhol kid?" Fucking obsessed. Nah, I'm just lazy.
The Andy Warhol kid.
Dude, by the end of high school, I knew every fucking thing about everybody that was there. Like Nico, Lou Reed, Edie Sedgwick, Candy Darling. I was like, fuck, like I the whole thing.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I did have another question about the adult
Yeah.
film industry. When it comes to, and I asked you this yesterday, but obviously, but when it comes to the male performers and having to get a boner, like when it comes time for them to do that, I heard about the whole balloon thing and about them having to put a balloon like in their crotch, and then like, so how does that work?
So it's actually a pretty common, it's like an internal penis pump. It's actually a pretty common treatment for erectile dysfunction. And it is like a balloon that's in the penis when it's deflated, and then they can like squeeze their balls, their one ball. It's like a button, and it just goes poof. And it's hard.
So I meant to ask you yesterday. So is it literally like on like one of their balls?
Yeah, they like literally take their ball and like I'm trying to like they like that's what
And
it
it
looks
just
like.
poof, just comes up.
Yep.
That is nuts.
It's wild. Yeah, it's really great if that's your career. Cuz you're always on demand, and then also you're not like putting drugs in your body. It's kind of like the IUD for men, except instead of like birth control, it's for your erection. If you don't want to take like birth control pills every day or Viagra, it's the
I wonder how that
implanted
process
one.
works though. Like how they actually like put it in there. Like, do they have to like put it like in like their dick hole?
I don't know. I think it's an incision. I've worked with a few guys that had them, and they're fine. It's really convenient from my perspective that you have that.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
Yeah.
Like unless you're going to make a lot of money doing it. Like, yeah, that's got to be a process, man.
Yeah, I really don't know. I would assume it's probably fairly non-invasive. They're pretty magical with that kind of stuff at this point, I think.
True that. Yeah.
Like the ways that they can do that kind of shit is pretty crazy. Science, nuts. Science is cool. But yeah, no, that's definitely a thing. Because the other guys not all of them necessarily take Viagra. They usually keep it in their bag. And that's true of porn. And again, it's true of that is like in any job, it's a little different because you're having sex with them. But like you're gonna work with people that don't really float your penis sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it's not. I've never taken it personally. I've definitely worked with guys that like were not about it. Like I wasn't doing it for him, and that's fine. That doesn't bother me. Yeah. I've worked with guys that did nothing for me. Most of them, if we're being totally honest.
Really? Holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple guys there's a few guys that I love to work with. But a lot of them I would just, like, and it's nothing even personal. It's just like, okay, like you're a fine person. We could be friends, but I don't have like an attraction to you necessarily. Like, I've worked with guys that were much younger than me that were like 18, 19. Like, I don't have anything to say to that guy.
Fuck that guy.
We don't have anything in common. I don't have anything in common with an 18-year-old girl either.
True.
18-year-olds are fucking idiots.
But no matter gender, at 18, you're
an idiot. Yeah. And and like that's just true sometimes. Like you work with people, or like I've worked with people where I'm just like, we have no similar interests.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of a very like I have a joke about this I've been working on. Like I catch feelings the way that most people catch the flu. Like once a year for a week, I feel like shit. I'm sweaty and I'm nauseous. And then like a week later, I feel fine. But it only happens like once a year. So I'm
What- so-
not.
What's it like though? Like, because you said like there are some performers, actually you said most performers that
Mhm.
you performed with, you're not physically attracted to. So do you actually like fake your, not to get like too personal or anything, but like, do you actually fake your orgasms? Like, do you actually fake like you're like, oh, I'm coming, but you're not really coming? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, you do. Like, I'm not gonna pretend that I have never done that. I've
Mhm.
had real orgasms on set. But like when I'm on a set, like the point is not my orgasm. Like that's so irrelevant
Yeah.
to what we're doing. I'm there to create someone else's fantasy and to play a role that they need me to do. It's a job. Um, like, Keanu Reeves doesn't go home and continue being John Wick.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I kind of look at it like that, where it's like and they want to. I mean, the way that girls come in porn, like they want it to be it's theatrical. Like
Yeah.
everything about porn, like from the positions to the colors, like to the lighting, like everything is over the top.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like it triggers that like pleasure, that dopamine in our brains.
Yeah.
And that's why we like big fake titties and big old asses. Like, because you're just like, this is
Yeah.
so crazy. And so that's what it is. Like I mean, I've even had orgasms on set where while I was coming, I was actively being like, make it more like you're in a mindset. So you're just like,
Yeah.
okay, vocalize. I just did a thread on Twitter the other day and I like thought I was gonna get way more roasted for it than I did. But like I personally do not like having my pussy eaten. I don't like it. I've never
I've
liked
met
it.
girls that haven't liked that either. So
Yeah, it's not
I
my
can see.
thing. I like a finger bang all day. Two, boom, boom, boom. Jam. That's my fucking jam.
Which is crazy because your fingers are more, if you think about it, your fingers have more germs in your mouth, right?
Oh, I mean, I definitely make the guy like I would make you like wash your hands.
Yeah.
Like before I have sex with anybody like that, I'm like wash your
Hey,
hands.
before we continue this,
I'll
wash your
wash mine. I'll also like brush my teeth. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with that. To me, that doesn't like slow down the passion at all. It's like,
hands.
yeah, like if anything, it's so considerate to like rinse off and be your,
Yeah, yeah.
like, yeah, like hot, sweaty, dirty sex is fun sometimes, but generally
But not
speaking,
all
like
the time.
sex is almost 99% of the time way more pleasurable if both people are clean and smell good
And the AC is on.
and the AC is on, which we can't have in porn because it fucks up the sound. So like I've done scenes, in the valley where it was 118 degrees outside and we're in like an unair conditioned glass box fucking on a leather couch and you're just like you pull your thigh up and it feels like you just waxed.
Oh my god.
Um
Oh my god.
brutal. But yeah, I went on and I was just like, look, like it's not my thing. It doesn't do anything for me. I like if I'm dating someone that's super into it, like I will
Mhm.
tolerate that. Like if that like gets you off, it's fine. But like
Yeah.
if I like hook up with somebody, I'm just like, you don't really have to.
Yeah.
Like
That's
unless it's your thing.
it's crazy. Like, and also like that actually led to like what I was talking about yesterday in terms of like
Mhm.
I did some stupid shit last year where I was like, fuck it. I'm going to write a script and send it to Brazzers and they're going to look at it and I'm going to get hired by Brazzers to be a story, to be in creative writing or, write their scenes. No, that's not how that works. Like, but the thing is, like my question to you is when it comes to acting in porn and like
Mhm.
the cut, like the intros and the cut scenes, before they actually, get to the part where they're fucking,
Yeah.
I always had the thought of like, people always try and look for new ways to find actors. And I'm like, how come porn has not had so many people? I mean, they have had, their handful of people that have got into
Mhm.
acting and vice versa, going from acting into porn. Maitland Ward is probably one of the bigger names as well. But,
Yeah.
which is crazy because I watched Boy Meets, I grew up on Boy Meets World. But,
Yeah.
um, how come they don't have that many, people go from porn to actually going into the big screen?
Because most porn performers want to be porn performers and not actors. Like at the end of the day, there are some people that do a lot of the narrative driven stuff and are incredible actors and actresses. Like Kristen Scott is one. She did a movie for Gamma last year called Teenage Lesbian, and they released like the safe for work, no sex cut of it on YouTube. It's an incredible film. It holds up as its own, like as an indie movie. And she's phenomenal in it. But most people are not like that. Most people that get into porn, it's this like weird pervasive like Hollywood myth that you get into porn when you fail out of regular acting, and that's not the case at all. Like pornography is just as competitive. I don't know if would say it's just as competitive as like the box office, but as far as like getting a role in something, if you were trying to just like make it in Hollywood, you would be much better off just continuing to take extra gigs for $200-$300 a day in the background of a movie than going off and doing porn. You'll make more money doing mainstream that way. Porn's competitive. It's tough. Like we were saying, like a new girl turns 18 every day. There's always going to be somebody prettier than you and younger than you and hotter than you who sucks a better dick than you. Like it's competitive, and there are people that and if you talk to most like porn performers that have, especially that have been in it for a hot minute, like more, I would say like 3 to 5 years, whatever, most of them will tell you they've wanted to be in porn since they were 14, 15,
which is
even
nuts.
younger. Yeah, James Dean will say he wanted to do porn movies in kindergarten. Like he didn't even know what it was.
That is crazy.
And that's what they want to do. So like when it comes to the acting, and honestly, it is super frustrating because the acting, like the setup, that 10 minutes of dialogue that everyone skips through, that takes like 3 times longer to shoot than the sex. The sex is maybe 40, 45 minutes. Like, and that's high. Often they're like, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
20 minutes is not that long.
And to think about it, like I'll sit there like and watch the intro for 20 minutes before they start fucking. Like I'm that guy. I'm like, this is some really good acting. Like you're really into the story, and then the sex just makes it better. And you're like, I can fuck with this. Like I look at it that way, to where it's like a perfect example would be like Digital Playground. Like they have some really good bangers of just acting, like not even the fucking part, just like the movie aspect of like scene after scene after scene. And it's just like boom, boom, boom. And you're like, this is really acting. Like you would think these guys really wanted to make it in, like on the big screen or, on, the silver screen, whatever. But that, to me, that's fascinating though. The fact that, most of them actually want to just stay in porn.
I will say that like Digital Playground is one of those sites that is more narrative heavy and is more shot like a feature length, like because we do call it different. Like a feature is something like what you're talking about, where it is a movie. I did a lot of gonzo porn when I was in porn, which honestly I preferred because it takes way less time and it pays the same.
Ooh. Like
for a gonzo scene, you might like, for certain directors, you can get in and out of a gonzo scene in 3-4 hours. Just boom, boom. It's an afternoon. You're done. Like you're off by 5. You're great.
Go in, fuck, leave.
Like, whereas I've been on set for like Pure Taboo as an extra for 14 hours. And it was a cool experience. It was cool to watch them do it. I was glad to be there. I got paid. Not a lot, but I got paid. And it was neat. We had cool like period costumes. It was like a 60s kind of mod beach party vibe. And that was all cool. But I remember even like being there, and we're in this like backyard in West Hollywood, and it was cold, and I had like heels on, and I couldn't sit down because you can't sit down. You'll get like marks on your ass. And I'm like standing there in this swimsuit, and I just remember being there like, this is like, my knees hurt and I'm cold. I want to go home. And I don't want to do narrative porn anymore. So yeah, I mean, I always kind of gravitated towards like, and also like the gonzo, like you get to be a little sillier. It's more glam. You get to have like the crazy makeup and the sparkly outfits. And I think that part's really fun. Cause again, it's like so different from who I am as a person.
Yeah.
That I loved being like that aspect of being a showgirl. And like when I got to start feature dancing, which I had just started doing before COVID, and was getting to get all these, you get these ridiculous, like bedazzled costumes with these crazy thigh high boots and like the headpieces and everything has spark. Like I had to buy a bedazzler to like put more sparkles on my, like they told me, they're like, you have to go buy one so you can put more sparkles. Yeah.
Word.
I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, like sign me up. Like I love this shit. I want to do that like once a month. I want to get so decked out and feel really, really pretty. And then the rest of the time I want to wear this. It's the closest to being a drag queen you can get as a woman. Which like always appeal. I'm a huge Dolly Parton fan. Like,
oh yeah, I remember you told me that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and again, like I didn't grow up girly. I'm from Colorado. You know, everyone in Colorado wears like leggings and polar fleece and like it's, you know, it's a very casual, like my parents wear like almost exclusively athletic clothes. I don't know that I've seen them in anything that didn't have like some amount of lycra in it in years. They're retired people. They live in Colorado. That's what they wear. But you know, like I love that. I loved that when I was a little kid too. I remember I wanted like light up sparkly tennis shoes. And now as an adult, I'm not super girly. I don't want to wear that every day, but it is so fun to get to do it once in a while.
Yeah, it's nice to do that every once in a while. That's the way I feel whenever I do dress nice, period. I'm just like, you know, I got, you know, like the whole full on, you know, the hat, the flannel, the jeans, the boots. And then I'm like, yeah, man, I feel nice. But it's not something I would wear every single day.
Yeah.
Not even like every week.
I've had to. It's been something I've really kind of struggled with because I got into porn, you know, at 23, and even working behind the scenes in porn, like I wore black cargo pants, Doc Martens, and like a black kind of tank top like this, and like this kind of shirt, and like a ball cap, and a tool belt. Because I was building like equipment. So yeah. And I'm like traipsing through the woods to get muddy and shit. It was super, super fun. But like when you're not on a porn set, you know, performing where you're all done up, you're very casual all the time. I didn't need office clothes. I have no reason to go to a J. Crew. Like I don't need any khakis. And so I didn't like develop any sense of personal style in my early 20s. And then like it's funny because it came up with comedy. Because my first year in comedy also I dressed really, really down because I wanted to like I didn't want to throw it in people's faces that I did porn, and I wanted to look like kind of one of the guys. So it was a lot of jeans and flannels and the Doc Martens still, same pair, they last forever. And then like in the last, you know, probably like 6 months, especially like as I started like being like, okay, well, I'm gonna retire from porn and I kind of want to be like a normal girl to the extent that I am able to be.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not normal. But you know, trying to figure out like, okay, like how does, and I actually had texted one of my male comic friends whose fiance is the same age as I am, and she always dresses really cute. And I remember texting, like I was drunk one night, we'd all come home from the club and I was at home and I was like, hey, will you ask Chandler if she'll take me shopping after COVID and tell me what you're supposed to wear when you're 26? Like, will you tell? And he's like, yeah, of course I will. She'll love that. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to wear. And like, it's been brought to my attention that I dress like a fucking hobo.
Oh my gosh.
And for a while, every time I would go home, like my mom would take me to like TJ Maxx and she would spend like $300-400. And it was really nice because it was like the only time I got new clothes during the year.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was like that undercurrent of like, we're a little embarrassed to be seen with you. Like, but I'm not gonna look at gift cards in the mouth, man. It's the only time I get new sneakers. I get one pair of new sneakers a year. They're either Converse or Adidas Stan Smiths, and they're whichever one is on sale at TJ Maxx when I go with my mom.
That's how it was when I was a kid. Like it was like, all right, it's August, the beginning of August. You got 2 weeks before school. We're gonna go school shopping, and that's your outfit for the rest of the year. And it was like that. It was one of those things. Like,
and I went to Catholic school, so we wore uniforms. So like, I never had to we always wear the same thing. I had no clothes when I graduated from high school. I had like sweats and church clothes and khaki pants that I later burned in a bonfire. So like, I had nothing, and I tried to like dress in college, but I was in art school. Actually, that's where I got this flannel because I bought like cute clothes, like the nicest stuff they had at Goodwill that summer. And then I realized really quick that I was going to destroy them all with like paint and chalk and shit. So I went to the Goodwill and I bought like 10 men's flannel shirts and just like leggings. And that's what I wore for the rest of college, like sweaters and yeah.
You really learn in college, though. We really learn how to save money in college. Like it's like one of those natural like instinct things. It's like you go to college and you learn really quick that the money that you spend, you're most likely not going to get that back in a reasonable amount of time. So you so you start like having like these little like niches like everywhere you go. You're like, okay, I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna buy like 4 outfits and I'm gonna wear that for like the next like 6 months, or hell, maybe even the next 3 years.
It was almost like a uniform.
Yeah.
Like I was running around, and you're so busy too in college.
Yeah.
Because I'd come home from work and I would wear, you know, like yoga pants at work, and then I would just throw on like whatever. And also I went to school with a lot of people that were from out of state and were very wealthy and very much like showed it, and I felt very insecure in college because I mean I didn't have like I remember my roommate's mom sending her enormous care packages with like sweaters from Nordstrom and beautiful like Fry leather boots and stuff from Sephora, and I was like, my mom brought me ramen.
Bro, that's how
Like I mean it's cool, I'm not gonna knock it, but like I don't, you know, and I've always been like a thrift shopper. I'm a fucking cheapskate. I had a bent bobby pin in college that I would use to pop open the toilet paper dispensers on campus and take it.
No. You did that?
Well, so I had this weird dorm room that had its own like private bathroom. It had been like it must have been like an office at some point. Yeah. There was only 4 rooms like this in my dorm. My dorm had 500 people in it. It was a very old building. And so there was like a big room with 2 beds in it. And then there was a door through it to a smaller room that was half the size with 1 bed. And the other half of that room was a bathroom and a closet. And I had that tiny little room. But like, because the 3 of us had our own bathroom, we had to take turns buying toilet paper. And I had no fucking money.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, you can't get mad at me. I provided.
Yeah.
I know it's like this big.
It doesn't matter where it came from. It's here now.
You're not going to have to buy any more for a long time.
I had one cat I used to live with, one of my old roommates, and he used to steal printer paper from school and take it home and use it. And I'm like, bro, you took that out of the library? He's like, yeah. You're not gonna miss it. They got like a bunch in the back stock room. He's like, I took like 3 or 4, like he took like 3 or 4 like stacks like a week from the library, and I'm just like, holy shit. I'm like, I'm gonna use some of that, but I'm gonna feel guilty while I'm using it though. Like,
I don't think you should feel guilty. You're paying tuition, man. Like college is college is a fucking scam. Like I honestly believe this. I loved college. I was just going through a bunch of my old college papers last night of stuff I'd written, and like, holy shit, I was so smart back then. I don't know what happened. I'm like writing.
You're still smart to be able to be in comedy. You're very bright. Very
Thank you. Bright. I'm not like trying to like draw a line for like field theory to like the special theory of relativity anymore, which apparently I used to be able to do in my sleep. But like honestly, I loved college. I was really, really privileged to get to go to college. I worked my ass off. I didn't like have a lot of the luxuries. I had my parents did pay for me for my school, which is an incredible gift. It's an enormous gift. It was not really an option that I not go to college. I will say, like, it wasn't like optional.
Yeah.
And I always did bring that up with them, that I thought it was funny because like my dad grew up very poor. And so he would always like, I remember we were in like elementary school and he'd be like, do you guys know how much your school costs? We're like, no, we're 7.
Nor do we care because we're 7.
You give me $25 a month for allowance. And I think that's an enormous sum. And so I'm very grateful. He's addressed some of those issues actually as he's gotten older and been like, yeah, that was unfair. And I held it over your head because I didn't know what else to do. But I'm really grateful for that. But it wasn't like I had like a credit card from them that I could use. Like the money that I was, outside of like my tuition, and they paid the rent on my apartment, which they didn't know. And I thought this was so funny. They didn't know how much apartments cost. Like they hadn't rented an apartment in a very long time.
Yeah.
And I went to school in Boulder, which is not a cheap place to live. But like the average rent for a student there was like about $700-800 for like with roommates. And I remember like explaining that, and they're like, "That's ridiculous." Like my first budget for my apartment was $400.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so I lived in like a shitty basement, and I remember them coming and being like, "This is horrible." And I was like, "We had this conversation." Like I pulled up Craigslist. I don't know what else you wanted me to do. And like it ended up flooding. So I moved, and I had like 2 roommates that were really, really mean to me. So I moved like to my own, and like so that was the agreement. I think my apartment in college was like $700 that I lived at. When I left, it rented for like $1,200. Yeah, but I lived there for 3 years. It was super shitty. It looked like a crack house. My neighbor downstairs was a drug dealer, which was great because I always had weed. It was like this old Victorian house. It was falling apart. Like we didn't have heat one time for like weeks in November.
Ooh,
yeah.
no.
Oh no, like the roof was falling off in parts of it. There was like rats at one point. I mean, I loved it. It was very hippie. It was very bohemian. I like painted it, and I cleaned it up, and I made it look really nice. But yeah, my parents used to call it the crack house. And I would again be like,
in your 20s, I feel like in your 20s, you can probably get away with living that way. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely. I don't feel as bad as living in like a like a shitty house or apartment or anything when you're in your 20s. Like once you hit like 30, you're like, oh shit, I should probably, like invest in like a home, like, but like in your 20s, whatever.
Yeah, no, it was fun. And I mean, as shitty as it looked, like I had a beautiful view, and I wasn't even in my 20s. I was 19 when I started living alone.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, so I was young, and I loved it. I had my own space. It was beautiful. I kept it really nice, and it was fine. Like, but I didn't have I didn't have the time to get to go to like spring break or to party with people. Like I got to go to a couple of parties freshman year, and then after that it was just I was working all the time, and I was interning, and I didn't really get to have a lot of fun in college. I loved classes. I loved learning. I loved being in school, but I didn't really make a lot of friends. I didn't have very much in common with most people that I went to school with. And I felt very like, I mean, college kids are insecure.
Yeah.
Everyone that's, but I remember feeling like, oh, I didn't have, the night, like I didn't have clothes that were nice enough to like go out with these people, or like I felt like people were, whatever. Like now I look back on it and I'm like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
But at the time it felt like it was that, it was a difficult thing. And I look back on it now, and I'm glad that things happened the way they did.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely like learned way more and was more mature and also just focused on school, because like that's what you're there to do. But my point of all of this was that like, unless you are either having someone else pay your meal ticket, or exactly what you want to do, and it'll make you money. So engineering, that's pretty much it. Don't go to college. It costs like $100,000. It's not worth it. It's not at all worth it.
The experiences are.
Yeah.
And I feel like, actually, you know what? I'll caveat on top of that and say, like, I guess the class, like the experiences you have inside the classroom are, if you have a small enough class in college, because some classes that had like really big classes, like an auditorium kind of class, and other classes that was like literally it was like me and like 9 other people.
Yeah. And those are rad. I loved small classes like that.
Yeah, the smaller classes are amazing.
Yeah.
And that's a lost art nowadays. Like people don't know what, like, kids nowadays don't know, and I feel old saying it's kids nowadays, but like kids nowadays really don't know what it's like to, like, again, everything has made them so socially awkward that they're like antisocial,
Oh, totally.
It's like super crazy, super duper crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm about to ask you the most cliche question when it comes to being associated with the adult film industry. And that is, what were your parents' first thought when you told them you were in adult film industry?
So I didn't tell them because I was being a fucking pussy and a coward. And I knew they would be mad about it. I knew they wouldn't like it. I knew they wouldn't understand it. So I just didn't say anything. And then somebody sent my dad a link to my Twitter account.
It's the worst thing ever, by the way.
It's so fucking bad because it also had like all my bad jokes on it because I was already doing jokes at that point. So I was like, not only did my dad like see my tits, but like that was such a dumb fucking joke. Like, oh my God, that was the thing that was like pinned. Oh boy, this is embarrassing. And you know, they were really upset. We didn't really speak for like 6 months. I told them, I was like, I'm safe and I'm happy and I'm trying to forge my own way and I appreciate everything you've done for me, but like I gotta go figure this out. And my parents are both very strong, very stubborn, very intelligent people. And I told him straight up at that point, I was like, I will never figure out who I am and who I want to be around you.
Yeah.
Like, I love you so much that I will kowtow to whatever you tell me to do because I don't want to hurt you and I want you to be happy. And I will do that to my own detriment, like to the point of like destruction. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to live that way. And it took a long time. We went to therapy for like 3 hours together in October, which was an experience.
I bet.
Yeah, it was cool. They're actually like their therapist is from Beverly Hills, and lives in Colorado now. They've seen it, like they've gone to him for years. And my dad brought up, he's like, well, I just feel like you threw your future away because it's always going to be out there. And their therapist stopped him and was like, absolutely not. Like, people do adult work and sex work for a myriad of reasons. Doctors do it, lawyers do it, people that are trying to figure out. He's like, there is no way that this girl is not going to have a great future if she wants it. And I like wanted to hug him. I was like, oh, I needed that. Thank you.
And it's crazy because you look at the situation with Mia Khalifa, right? Mm-hmm. And what she was saying when she was talking about her experiences with adult entertainment, because believe it or not, Mia Khalifa wouldn't be Mia Khalifa without porn. Let's be honest here.
Fucking duh.
But like she's saying like, oh, I can't walk anywhere without people saying like, oh, you're that girl from porn. But it's just like,
yeah, because you don't shut up about it.
Yeah, like that's, I mean, until you have a career, and I'm not saying a career that will completely diminish what you did in porn, but a career that will, I guess you would say, overshadows what you did in porn. Like a career where people will know, like, okay, here is the comedian Kate Kennedy, and she also just so happened to have done porn in the past. Yeah. Not, hey, there's adult film actress or former adult film actress Kate. You know what I mean? Like, it's things like that, and that's one thing that I'm glad you brought that up. Like, I'm glad you said that because and shared that experience too. Yeah. Because again, like, not a lot of people think that there's like an afterlife to porn. A lot of people think like, oh, there's porn and there's the end. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, there absolutely isn't. I mean, the vast majority of people leave porn and go on to other things.
Yeah.
All of those people have jobs. It's not like, I mean, there are tens of thousands of performers every year. Like, not all of them die on the streets with a needle in their arm. Like, that's ridiculous. Many people, like, you can't teach kindergarten. I didn't want to do that anyways. I don't like kids. This is my child. Her name is Fiji. She just woke up from a nap. But like, no, it's, you know, I even when I like, I mean, obviously I don't really do porn anymore, but as I walked away from it, it was nothing that I was like ashamed about. It was nothing I wanted to hide. It was a great job that I had a ton of fun with and gave me incredible opportunities that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, especially now, I think even with all the OnlyFans stuff and, you know, fuck Bella Thorne, but like,
whoa, what?
Dude, I'm so fucking pissed about this. I'm so mad.
Bella, did you say Bella Thorne?
Yeah.
I don't know too much about Bella Thorne, but Can you elaborate a little bit? I don't know if you
So
want to. If you want to, that's
yeah, I'm happy to. So she recently joined OnlyFans to do research for a movie about OnlyFans that she's doing with Sean Barker, who is a great director, who directed the Florida Project, which was one of my favorite, or I think it's Sean Baker, sorry. One of my favorite movies of last year. But so she gets on OnlyFans. She made $1 million her first day on OnlyFans. And as someone whose primary income is from OnlyFans and who has seen like my industry misrepresented over and over and over again, like it's fucking gross. It's like colonialism at its finest. Like you come into this platform that is built for one of the most marginalized classes in our society, sex workers, that this is very much how we pay our bills. And many of us struggle. And you just co-opt it. You take the story that you want to tell, regardless of the reality, and you change it and you glamorize it, and you don't bother consulting any of us. And you're literally taking money out of our pockets.
Damn.
Like, fuck you.
Damn.
And you know they'll hire a couple of top porn stars, sex workers as consultants on the film. They won't do shit. They won't bother to ask any other questions about what the reality of this is like. And the reality of OnlyFans and the way that most porn is going right now, it's fucking brutal. I work for myself, but I work 12 hours a day. I almost never stop working. Like, I just can't.
There's two other so I've had some other interviews with OnlyFans, content creators. And they've said the same thing. They're like, it's great to work for yourself. Like it's amazing to work for yourself. But they've said the same thing. They're working hard. They're working like hours and hours on end to perfect their craft on OnlyFans. And I was like, it's weird because like I was like, I never would have guessed it. I never would have thought that.
Between the shooting, like the concept for it first, right? So like what I do, and I'm not shy about my process either. Like a lot of like the ways that I do my OnlyFans comes from like advertising school and like digital, like that was what I studied, was advertising with a focus in digital brand strategy. It's still what I do today.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I make content calendars. I go through and like, what are all the quirky, fun holidays in September? Today is National Dog Day. So I posted a series of like black and white professional photos I had done with Squeegee.
Nice name, by the way.
Thank you. It's because her bad leg looks like a squeegee when she moves it up and down. Huh. People ask you the dumbest questions when you have a 3-legged dog. Because they're always like, what happened? Or like, do you think there's a cool story? Like, she wasn't in Nom. She's inbred as shit, dude. Like, she's a hunting dog. They never ask you, was she cheaper than the dogs with all their legs? Which the answer is yes. She was $20 cheaper.
Damn.
Than the dogs with 4 legs. She's cost me way more than that in vet bills over the years. I love her so much. She's very special. I carry her up and down 2 flights of stairs every time she has to go out to go potty.
It's weird that people ask you though, like what happened to your dog? Like, because you nobody in a million years would ever ask anyone that's in a wheelchair or anyone that has any kind of like physical, you know what I mean? Like nobody's gonna walk up to somebody with an amputee and be like, "What happened?" You know what I mean? Like, so why would you ask that about a dog? Like the dog can still hear you, even though the dog's not human. Like,
well, and also I can hear you. And I had someone ask me one time, they're like, "Oh, well, because she's special with the leg, do you think there's something like mental?" I was like, "Are you asking me if my dog is retarded?"
What the fuck?
What? And then my favorite one ever was that I had a Christmas party at my house. It was like the first year I moved to LA, and there was a bunch of people there. There's a very, very drunk girl, and she comes up to me and she says, "Your dog is so cute. But you know what would be even cuter?
Oh, hell.
What if, like, it was a 3-legged dog with, like, a 3-legged owner?" And I was like, "Are you suggesting it would be cuter if I amputated my own arm?" to like leave the room.
Oh my gosh.
I was laughing so hard.
Oh my god.
I don't even remember who that was. I remember her so vividly saying that to me. And just, I don't think I ever saw her again. She was just someone that was at that party. And I just remember being like, I don't want to live on this planet anymore. Like,
speaking of not wanting to live on this planet anymore, all right, so being associated with not just the adult film industry, but being associated in the entertainment industry with comedy as well. And I wouldn't say you have like pull, but you have some notoriety. People know who you are. I mean, maybe not to the extent where like you're getting stopped everywhere you go, but people do know who Kate Kennedy is.
mm-hmm.
Do you find it difficult to date? Because you've already mentioned a couple times on a couple instances where you have been dating a little bit, but do you find it difficult to date in 2020? Not because of COVID, but like just in this day and age, do you find it difficult?
I found it difficult to date way before COVID. I thought it was difficult to date 10 years ago. So like
wow. Okay.
I've always been, I hate dating. I'm not good at it. Like my instinct for whatever reason when I find someone attractive is to instantly tell them all of the bad things I've ever done. I don't know why, but like if I see a cute guy at a bar and he's like going to buy me a drink and I get all nervous and he's like, yeah, like, where are you from? And I'm just like, one time in high school, I hit my English teacher with a car. Like it was an accident. But
what?
Like it was an accident. It was really dark.
Was that a real thing?
Yes,
is that true?
Really? Yes. I never tell jokes that aren't true. It was really, really dark. I was at a gas station. I didn't know it was him. And I just like barely, like he was like walking across like dark, not paying attention. Like,
so this wasn't at school.
No, it was at a gas station near school. And it was at like 8:00 at night. I was like after practice and I like stopped. I was like, oh my God, Mr. Bishop. I'm so sorry.
Oh my God.
It barely, he was not hurt at all. It was literally just like he almost walked into my car. He did apologize for giving me a B on my Oliver Twist paper after that. And it
was because you hit me with your fucking car.
I got really good grades for the rest of that year. But no, I have this weird impulse to be like, I'm terrible. I think because like there are guys that will idealize me. Especially being who I am, like I am kind of fun and adventurous and cute, and I think I represent something to a lot of men that they saw in like a Zooey Deschanel movie. Who by the way I find very obnoxious, but being quirky is not a personality trait. Being damaged is a personality trait. It's more of a disorder, but
I think most people can relate to that, though. Most people can relate to that.
Yeah, I've always found it difficult to date. I'm not somebody that like is necessarily comfortable. Like, and I'm attracted to so few people. Like when I feel it, I feel it.
Yeah.
And when I do, I just turn like I go from being very charming, very suave, very cute to like a blithering idiot. Somebody brought this up like a couple months ago with somebody that they're like, and I was all worked up over somebody, and my friend calls me. He's like, "You got to stop being a little fucking girl about this." And I was like, "You're right. That hurts, but you're right."
Woman up.
Yeah, and like I find it very hard to date, especially like within comedy, and then having done porn, like. You know, I understood when like because I did kind of see somebody that was outside of the porn industry while I was in it, and I got it. I don't have an issue with someone having an issue with me like doing porn actively while I'm in a relationship. I don't want to do porn while I'm dating, and that's another reason why I'm leaving. Like even though I don't have a boyfriend, like I'm 26, I would like to have a boyfriend at some point as an adult. I haven't dated anyone since I was like 22. So I've been single for a really long time, and that's fine. And I like focusing on my career, but I would like the option, of doing that. And when I even was kind of dating someone a little bit, and still doing porn, it was almost impossible for me to go to work. I hated it. I dreaded it. I didn't want to have sex with anybody else because I really liked this one person. And it like, you know, at the end of the day, it turns out I'm like more monogamous than I thought I was. But
Do you think other adult film stars actually feel the same way? They're just afraid to admit it.
yeah, I think so. I mean, I've heard people kind of like talk about it or allude to it where they're like, it's hard. And to me, it's not
Yeah.
even a jealousy thing. It's just like when you having sex with somebody that you really like, who really likes you,
It's an
it
emotional experience.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
so much better than even like the best casual like porn gangbang sex is ever. And that's a cool experience. It's a cool experience. And I'm glad I did it. So glad I did it. Had a great time. It's on kink.com if you want to see it. A+ day. Also last minute. So I'm a fucking trooper. Found anal gangbangs. I had like an hour and a half notice. But no, yeah, it's so much better. And when you experience that, it's just, it's special and you want to like that was really something for me where I was like, oh, okay, like I do want this. Maybe not right now.
Yeah.
But I want it someday. And but yeah, I mean it's hard. Like it's hard because my schedule is never gonna be normal, especially with comedy. I work at night. I'm at the
Yeah.
club every fucking night and I'm there till close. Cause that's when I'm meeting people and talking to people, and that's how you get on shows and how you network. And like and I've had it's mostly girls actually that date male comics. And I was just talking to a friend about this the other night too, where he was saying that like these two of his comic friends had dated and she was always really worked up that he was at the club till close till 2 a.m. And I thought it was funny. I was like, we all are there till 2
Yeah.
a.m. But like we close it down every night. Like
It's nothing new.
I help stack the chairs sometimes, like just because if I'm there. But yeah, no, I mean it's not a normal life. It's not a normal. I think ideally for me, like if I was like looking like for a partner,
Yeah.
I would want somebody that's also like in the comedy, like entertainment writing field that gets it.
Yeah.
That's gonna be. And I've talked to Tom Segura and Christina Pazitsky about this because they're married.
I still think it's crazy the fact that you are actually friends with Tom Segura.
I know it's so weird to me too.
That is nuts to me.
The first time I met him, he clogged a toilet. It was amazing.
That's awkward. Like, I wouldn't say that's amazing, but that's awkward. Even if to me, like if like Adam Sandler or like Dave Chappelle, the first time I met them, they clogged the toilet. I'd be like, it's awesome, but that's awkward. Like
it was kind of nice because I think he is such an intimidating person. Like he's not at all in person because he's such a sweetheart. Like they're both just the nicest fucking people on the planet. I cannot say enough nice things about them. They've done so much for me, just like having me on their shows. And Christina's let me open for her at her show at Flappers in Burbank several times. And just given me wonderful advice. And they're just great people. And I've seen them go so far out of their way for other people that work for them, whether it's at like their studio, their openers or something. They're good people, which is rare.
very rare.
Yeah, and
in general, not even just in a business, but just in general.
Just in general, yeah, somebody that will go so far out of the way. Like I walked into that studio that day, and it was I was super stoked. I mean, that's still to this day like the biggest thing I've ever done. And I walk in, and it was right near my car insurance office, like my State Farm office, which was weird. I was like, Janice's office is like 2 doors down. That's so weird. I didn't know you guys worked here. And he comes out of the bathroom and I'm just like, it's Tom Segura. Like I've watched every Netflix special he's ever done. And I like, he's this huge towering figure in this industry. And he goes, hi, it's nice to meet you. Maybe don't go in there right now. And I was like, I wasn't going to, but that's cool. So nice to meet you. Like, you absolute like monolith of a person. Like he's just this like legendary. But yeah, they're both so wonderful. And Christina talks about that too, where she's like, their marriage works on a lot of levels because they're both comics and they both get it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too, ideally, like in my ideal relationship, I would love to have somebody that I could like write with, that I could bounce jokes off of, that I could work on projects with, like collaborate. Like that sounds to me like the ideal relationship.
Except it would be somewhat awkward when they start writing jokes about you, though. When they start involving, like you both start involving each other in each other's jokes.
Yeah. I mean, I write jokes about, and I'm very open with this with guys. I'm like, you might end up in it. Not necessarily.
Just maybe.
If you do, it probably means you're pretty interesting. Like I don't really write jokes about the boring people that I've dated. I do write jokes about the terrible people I've dated. So like, you know, if we go on one Hinge date and within 20 minutes you start telling me about your ulcerative colitis, you're gonna end up, you know, not to shame anybody. Like it's a medical condition, but I don't need to know that you shit yourself on the first date.
On the first date.
Yeah.
That's another thing too. It's like in this generation, like people are so socially awkward. Like, yeah, I found myself even going on the dates that I have even down here, like in Florida. It's just like this generation is so like desensitized to where they just start telling you like everything about their whole life on the first date, and it kind of not necessarily scares you away, but you're like, weird flex, but okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, why are you telling me this? You know, and at that point, you're like, all right, do I really want a second date after this? Like, do I really? Yeah, she's cute, but do I really want to talk to this person again? Like, it's gotten to that point, and also to where, like, again, the whole like, even if it's not social awkwardness, it's definitely like the antisocial stuff. It's like being hammered into everyone's head, especially now with COVID.
Oh my God, yeah. It's like the first couple of nights that we were allowed out and could like go back to the store. Like every conversation I had with everyone was just like, I like woke up the next morning. I was like, oh my God, what did I say to who? Like what damage control do I need to run right now? Because I was so I've been literally yelling at a brick wall for 6 months. I have beautiful.
Some would say that's unhealthy, but I'm not the person to say that's unhealthy. I'm not one to judge at all.
Yeah, no, it's been very, if I was awkward before, it's gotten worse. And the thing is too, like I'm only awkward around people that I'm intimidated by. Like if I don't like have any like, and I'm just like, oh, whatever. I'm so fucking cool and sexy and like charming and fun. And like, oh my God, I would fall for me too. And then the second I like someone, I'm like, one time I punched my sister in the nose and it grew back crooked and I've always felt a little bad about it. I don't think it was my fault. I'm 90% sure it was genetic. But I wonder sometimes at night.
Oh my gosh. So as we're winding down here, I do want to ask you this. All right. Yeah. So 5 years from now, and I remember the answer you told me yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's a great fucking answer. 5 years from now, where do you see yourself? Whether it's career, whether it's in life, whatever.
I don't know. I hope I'm still here. I want to do this forever. I mean, this is my favorite thing. I want to keep telling jokes. I would love to get a pilot picked up. I'm working on like some pitches for. That's a cool thing that happens in Hollywood that they don't tell you is that you can just sell an idea. Like you don't have to write the whole script. Like you can pitch a show about whatever, and you put together a pitch deck, and they'll buy it from you for like a couple $1,000s, especially right now because Netflix doesn't want Hulu to buy it. Yeah, so like I'm working on some stuff like that. So it'd be incredible if I got a show picked up. I want to be doing comedy. I want to be here. Like this is my favorite place I've ever been. And it's the only place I've ever really like felt at home. And like I was around other people like me.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a time that I walk into the store and don't feel like, even when I was intimidated, even the very first night, I remember being like, this is the center of the universe. Like, this is everything.
That's awesome.
I never want to leave. I had talked to one of my friends the other night and asked him, you know, like I was asked about some career goals I had, and I was like, you know, how long do you think that it would take me to do X, Y, Z, whatever? And he goes, you know, I don't want to say a year, maybe 2 years, but just get ready to die trying.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool. I was already ready to die trying, and I thought you were going to say 5 years. So that's a great answer. I was already there. Is that kind of the same as what I said yesterday?
Yeah. Like you said, that the half hour,
The
being
half
able to
hour. Yep.
Yeah.
Working towards that. Like I mean, even the set I did Saturday when I put it together, I did 10 minutes and I got through like less than half of it. And it was less than that was probably like a fifth of what I have.
Mm-hmm.
So like just math, that's some terrible math right there. That was like fractions and time and craziness. But yeah, like my material is growing. It's maturing. It's getting better. I just want to keep getting better. It's such a weird thing to like grow up and be like, the thing I want to do is write dick jokes. That's what I was supposed to do. That's my purpose. I want to write stupid shit and make people laugh with my friends.
There is something special about making people laugh. That's why I've always appreciated like the comedy industry. And especially like even what we talked about yesterday in terms of the comedy industry, where it's being attacked because of PC culture, because it's big PC banner. And it's just like I feel like that's unfair to the actual industry of comedy, because if you look back now, I mean, you could make the argument that if you look back at entertainment period, 40 years ago, that shit was fucked up and shit was happening that wasn't supposed to be happening. But like, I feel like comedy is that line, like comedy is that barrier between like, this is what you're not supposed to say, but in comedy over in this corner, you can pretty much say whatever the fuck you want. As long as obviously, there's obviously like right and wrong, like in terms of common sense. But when it comes to like PC culture, I feel like comedy should be excluded from that to a certain extent, obviously.
I agree. I think that it can be excluded as long as you speak from your own experience. Because if you're speaking from someone else's experience, it's not going to be funny anyways.
Yeah.
That's hacky as hell. That's my whole problem with Bella Thorne. It's like, this isn't your experience. It's hacky as shit. Don't fucking
and
do that.
She pretty much cashed out on you guys' experience as well, like in terms of like the adult film industry.
I would love to make $1 million in a day. I made $200 yesterday, and I was happy with that. So like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's exactly the same thing. I think it's okay to punch like across. I don't have a problem punching up sometimes.
When you have to, yeah.
There were so many underage girls trying to get in the Comedy Store on Saturday night. I thought we'd reopened as the Crystalia Daycare Center.
Oh my God. I'm not gonna have to edit that one out, am I? Because this is live.
No, that's just love. Yeah, no. I told that joke to everybody there.
Okay,
they already know it. And I never liked him anyways, so it's fine. Oh
my God.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. I always just try to speak from my own experiences, and I even was like looking at my set the other day, and I was like, all right, great. Like I talk about porn, religion, abortion. I have a great Black Lives Matter joke that I really like. I've done this joke several times. I've never gotten a bad response. Because I was going to the protests, obviously, in LA. They've been everywhere, and I think it's really important.
Wait, so you've been to the protests before?
Yeah. Yeah, I went to a bunch.
All right. So before you tell me the joke, I kind of do, because I do another podcast, Contemporary Comrades, which you can also find here on YouTube. And we talk about like, that's more like the more like political, like current event stuff that we talk about on there.
Oh, cool.
And I'm kind of actually interested what your experience like participating in the protests, actually like what it was like.
I met a cute guy and I didn't get his number, and I was really sad.
Okay.
Yeah, he was doing one of the chants, and he had this really cool like Scarface button down t-shirt. It was like a button down, but it was covered in pictures of Scarface. And
really?
Like, yeah, and he was like doing the chant. I was like, man, like that's so attractive. Like you got
what chant is he doing?
I mean, they do all of them. I could, but they're like, no justice, no peace, whatever. He had a megaphone.
Okay.
I don't know. Really good looking dude. And he's standing right in front of me, and I was like he finished. I was like, that was cool. And he's like, thanks. How are you? And I was like, I'm good. And then immediately we all started going, and I was like, God damn it. And then I didn't see him for the rest of the day. And I was like, I'm never going to find you. There was 100,000 people here.
Holy shit. That's a lot
Yeah. No, it's been really cool. Honestly, everything I've been to has been very peaceful. It's been very like unifying. We went through West Hollywood. They were giving away free hot dogs. It was awesome. I kind of wish we did this every weekend. I liked the hot
I'm
dogs.
coming back next weekend.
But no, I mean, it's been cool. Like, I think as like the whitest person I've ever met, I literally, like, that's actually the joke. Like, I went to a Black Lives Matter march. I got a sunburn. I felt like it was the least I could do. The only thing the police have ever harassed me about is wearing sunscreen.
Oh my God.
Which I think is a very fun joke, right? It doesn't diminish anything. It's stupid. It's a little self-deprecating. It's also true. I got a terrible fucking sunburn.
I think, like, and you know what else? I think that's a lost art too. To go back on the fact that you make your jokes, but all your jokes, like you said, all your jokes like stem from the truth. Like that's like it's not like you just made it up. And I feel like now I don't know the deep dive into like the comedy industry, but I would assume not everyone's jokes are like that. Not everyone stems from the truth when they tell their jokes. And I feel like that's a pretty good like practice to have.
I think so. I mean, I know a lot of people that write the jokes for a lot of the really big comics. Who are
and I didn't know that was a thing until I became much older too.
Yeah, for me, I mean, that goes back to wanting to have adventures and experiences and living outside yourself and having something to write about and something to talk about. Is that like I want everything to come from, I want it to be mine, you know, and like I want it to be me, because otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah,
you know, like the point is to get up there and like, I mean, it's gross. I just wrote like a blog post about this, but like the language we use for comedy is so violent. It's killing, it's murdering, it's roasting, it's, you know, it's bleeding out. Like you're dying up there. Like it's dying.
Yeah.
And that vulnerability, I think without that, comedy is just, it's cheap. You know? Like I mean, I'll laugh at a dumb joke the same way anybody else will, but like I like when comedy, and I think it has the ability to like bridge that gap of like, I think it's very possible to like talk passionately about things that you believe in and still be funny.
Yes. That's why I always mention Dave Chappelle is like my all-time favorite, because he does that so fucking well. It's just like, but he's been doing that long before all this, you know, bullshit in the world's been happening, like, or at least has been, you know, recorded. You know, like he has always been consistent in saying like, hey, look, this is a real thing going on in the world right now, let alone in our country, let alone in our state and on our cities. But I'm going to tell this joke. You should care
about it.
Yeah, and it's going to make you care about it. It's going to make you more aware, and you're going to get a laugh out of it. Like, you're going to be like, holy shit. Like, and sometimes I find myself laughing at comedians when they do, like, I love Netflix stand-ups. Like, Netflix I use specifically for like stand-ups.
I never watch them anymore. It's really hard for me to watch. And it kind of sucks because I mean, I used to devour it. And I watched everything that was on it. And now I can't, like, I compare it to like trying to figure out how an engine works by buying a Ford Fiesta. Like, you could reverse engineer it, but it would be a waste of your fucking time. Like, you're not gonna, like, just go pick up a book about how engines work. Because anything that like is going to be like on a special, that's a joke that someone, and I talked about this with Niall today on my podcast about his special and him not having run it in every fucking club in all 50 states 100 times before he recorded it. Because when you watch a special like that, there's nothing you can learn from it. It's perfect. It's polished. It's been done 100 times. Whereas like going and watching someone in development on something and watching them do the same joke week after week and watching it get better and seeing what they change and seeing how they try things, and that is valuable. when you're trying to learn it.
Yeah.
But to me, like when I watch a Netflix special right now, I'm just like, oh, that's awesome. You're amazing at this, and I'm shitty.
Well, you shouldn't think of it that way. You definitely shouldn't think of it that way.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's like being a high school quarterback and being like, yeah, let me go like watch Troy Aikman play. That's such an old reference. Oh my god. I don't follow sports.
One of the greatest, though. One of the greatest, though. He's only just one of the
Joe Montana. I don't know. Whoever. Peyton Manning. Whatever. It's it's like that. So like it's still really cool to watch him play. It's still why you started playing in the first place.
Yeah.
But I also find like it's really easy as a comic to like accidentally take on other people's voices.
Ooh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it's also part of why I don't watch a lot of female comics. I also object to the idea that like this bothers me because people will be like, "What comics do you like?" And I'll give them a list of the people that I that got me into the business, that I admire now, that I like to watch work. And then they'll follow it up with, well, who are your favorite female comics? I'm like, you wouldn't ask me that if I was a dude.
Yeah.
Like, and I like, and not that I don't, I admire many female comics. So many of them are super, super talented and amazing. And I love watching them. And many of them are on my list too of people that I love to watch. But I generally lean towards a more male perspective on most things. I've always had mostly male friends. That's my style of comedy. And I hate this idea that like the girls, and they always call us the girls. I'm like, I'm 26 years old, man. Like, I know I look like a fucking brownie, but Jesus Christ. Like, they like, it's infantilizing. It's frustrating. It's like I can like who I like, and I can do the kind of like it's silly to think that like, and I like to talk about dating or whatever, or like my own shit, but like I think it's silly to expect that like I can't do the same joke that a guy can.
Yeah.
Or that I shouldn't be like that. I should only be watching like the women.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm way more likely to co-opt a woman's comedy because at the end of the day, I'm more likely to have experienced it, whatever she's talking about.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think Whitney Cummings is super, super brilliant. I love seeing her anytime I haven't seen her in ages at the store, but I always love watching her go up. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those weird, it's a very male dominated field, more so than I think anything I've ever been in.
Really?
Way more so than porn.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, but then again, yeah, porn is like female. You would say porn is like female dominated, right? You would make the argument for that?
I would say like at this point, like in terms of directors, producers, and people that book the talent, it's pretty 50-50 men and women. And that like, but women have always had the power in porn. They make more money. They're the reason that people watch.
They're like the stars.
They're the star. Nobody watches for the guy.
Yeah.
With
being retired, do you now like, do you look back at porn and like, or not even look back at porn, but do you just look at porn and you're like, that was a great time in my life and that was like a certain chapter in my life. Would you ever go back into porn?
I don't like to slam doors closed. I have no plans right now to. It's hard. I don't know what's gonna happen. I've like changed so much and grown so much as a person just in the last like week and month and year. I was looking at some stuff I wrote last month and I was like, what was I talking about? And then I looked at the date on the page and I was like, this was 3 weeks ago. Like, oh boy. We learned some lessons this summer. But like, I don't know. I don't think I would. I mean, I'm going back into producing. So I'm really excited about that.
That's awesome. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's what I applied for like a PA job. And I was like, can I, fucking bring the paper towels and hand the paperwork, and he was like, "Do you actually just want to take over as head of production?"
Oh,
He's like, "Yes, I."
do
And
I?
my day rate is to say what now? It's not the job I was applying for, but hell's yeah. So it's gonna be really fun. I'm gonna get to make crazy pornos with one of my favorite people in the industry. And I'm gonna get to hire my friends and the people that I like and know are professional. No, I'm not saying it's like nepotism. I will hire the people that are qualified, but it's porn, so nobody's really that qualified. I don't want to make it sound like it's not labor, but like,
hey, what are you doing right now? All right, yeah, I got you.
There's a baseline of like you're alive and you don't have AIDS. Yeah, you can read. Yeah, if you can read, that's excellent for me. I would like it if you showed up on time. But yeah, so I'm gonna get to do that, which will be really fun. It's not something I want to like totally turn my back on. It's just time for a new adventure. And I also like with porn, it was so fun in my early 20s, but it wasn't. I've never found porn intellectually stimulating. And the more I get back into it's funny, it's almost like the same mindset like behind like writing papers in college and stuff where you're just doing it constantly. That's what you want to do. And it's like your brain's hungry. And with comedy, I very much find that because I find it super stimulating. So like that's kind of I started doing that and I was like, okay, wait, like I can't just turn it off anymore. And not to knock, I'm not saying like I never want to be accused of saying like porn is not hard work or not like valid labor. It absolutely is. I wasn't very good at it. Like that's how hard it is. But yeah, it was an incredible experience. We will see where we go from here.
That's
Life's
awesome.
one big adventure.
Like great, really big things going on for you right now. Like you're going, like you are now actually like part of like this big project. So like to me, looking on the outside, it's just like, holy shit. Like in such a short amount of time too, you were able to do this. Like you were able to overcome the obstacles and step on stage, which is again, not many people can even step on stage and talk without like stuttering or talk without like freezing and stuff like that. Like you're able to do that and make a living doing that. You're able to do, adult film and make a living from that. You're able to go behind the scenes, step behind the scenes in adult film and able to do that and be successful as well. Like you are like, I don't know, I'm sure plenty of people told you this, but you are extremely successful for a 26-year-old.
You're going to give me an ego.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, you're gonna give me an ego. More
that's
so
not
than
a bad thing to have, though. Ego's not a bad thing to have when you have success.
It is and it isn't. I mean, I try to, like I said, I never want to not feel lucky. I feel so lucky every day to get to do what I've gotten to do. I never ever, for like a second, no matter how successful I get, want to not feel lucky, because to me that's the best feeling. It's like, holy shit, I wake up every morning in Hollywood. I'm friends with Tom Segura. Like, what the fuck, man? Like I just feel really lucky, and I know a lot of it's my hard work, but it's also been a lot of like luck and chance and opportunity, and that's what it is. It's you win some, you lose some. To me, I only remember the wins.
Yeah.
Even when I have a set that doesn't go that well, I don't. When I walk off stage, the like silences. I've never really been heckled, but like the jokes that didn't land or that bombed, those are not what I remember. Those disappear as soon as. I mean, not that I'm not aware that like they need to be worked on.
Yeah.
But no, it's just every single thing is incredible. I can't like
That's
we're
awesome.
way back. Like my 15-year-old self would just be like, "Go to hell, you fucking liar." There's no way we do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's God damn, that's a great feeling to have though. Like that's a great accomplishment. Like you have not just one accomplishment. Like myself, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to do this, and I made my parents proud. Cool. Did my job for the next 10 years. No, like you have you literally went, all right, obstacle, boom, success, obstacle, boom, success, obstacle, boom, success. And it's like, holy shit, I still have a whole life ahead of me to where I can continue to do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome. That
like, what's
so
going to
awesome.
happen next?
Yeah. And inspiring too.
I mean, I think my whole line on, like, this is going to sound really kind of weird, but like my line on creativity is that creativity isn't just coming up with weird shit. It's not just being zany or wild. It's taking what you have and building something out of it. Like we all come in with assets and detriments, and it's you got to like look at what you have and try to make something great out of it. Like
make a chicken shit. I mean, make a chicken sandwich out of chicken shit.
That's exactly. Yeah. That's what it is. Like something from nothing.
Yeah.
And I really came here with, I didn't come here with nothing. I came to LA 2 years ago with all of my belongings in my car. I think I had about $7,000 that I'd saved up.
I remember you said yesterday, don't ever move to LA without $10,000 with like if you don't have more than $10,000, don't ever move to LA until you have like $10,000.
Don't do it. Yeah. Yeah, you need to have at least 10 grand. I had somewhere between like 7 and 10. I think I was sitting around 8. I got in a car accident while I was moving here. So
that's not good.
Put a dent. It wasn't my fault, but I did have to pay to fix it. So that put a dent in things. But yeah, don't, because you'll end up in the worst position. And when you're first out here, the way that you get jobs, the way you get anything is through meeting people, and that takes time.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to really be able to like afford to like sustain yourself for the first 3, 4, 5 months on.
That is crazy. That's nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I do have one last question for you.
Cool.
Which fans are, I wouldn't say the worst, but which ones do you get heckled more by on the internet, at least? Comedy, like fans from like comedy, or fans from the adult film industry?
I think it's a pretty split. I will say that most people like me, which is really frustrating for my podcast. I described myself earlier as like the wheat toast of people. Like I'm really not objectionable.
Not avocado toast?
No, I'm just plain wheat toast, a little bit of butter. Just like simple. It's probably good for you, but like nobody's writing home about it, Like I will say the comments I get sometimes from my comedy, like on my, like I have one video of my stand-up on my YouTube. I would have more, but then COVID happened. And it's like a video, I think it's like maybe my 3rd show ever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's rough. Yeah, it's rough. But like some of the comments are like, "Well, keep up, sweetheart. Like we can't all be Dave Chappelle right out the gate." Like fucking duh, dude. I was doing it for a month. What is wrong with you? Like
what the fuck?
It says in the description. The fuck, man?
God. Somebody actually said that to you?
Oh yeah, like it's on there. I'll send you the link to that YouTube video. Someone else said like, "Oh, well, the crowd's not great," and I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, we lost our headliner on that show a couple days before. We didn't end up having a headliner. It was a slow Saturday. There was 10 people in the crowd. They all laughed, but 10 people laughing is not very loud.
Something though.
For me it felt great, but like obviously on the video it's not quite as impressive. But yeah, or like like needs polish, whatever. And I'm just like I have been so upfront.
Oh my god.
That I was just learning how to do this. But I will say that like the fans, especially from like your mom's house, the podcast are incredible. They are most of my OnlyFans subscribers.
Damn.
They're all high and tight, guys. Keep
Hey,
gathering.
get it any way you can.
Yeah, no, they're wonderful. They love me. They've just been great. Yeah, most porn fans are really, are nice. I think the most like I really get in porn is that I'm a little plain, or I'm not quite like the bombshell. Which is fine with me. I'm not.
Well, what do you mean by that, though?
I mean, like I'm not super. I don't look like porno Barbie.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
There's no way I'm gonna look like that. I look like like your kid's babysitter that you kind of want to have an affair with, like at best. Like that's the height of sexiness that I get to.
Oh
It's fine
gosh.
with me. I'm a Mary Tyler Moore. I'm not a Marilyn Monroe. That's cool. Which, by the way, I thought the last question you were going to ask me was the music one that you asked me yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I thought about this. So I forgot to mention this. Or
Okay,
maybe
hold
I
on.
purposely didn't.
I'm gonna do it professionally.
Yeah.
What kind of music? What kind of music do you listen to before you go on set? For either to shoot a scene in porn, or before you go on stage to perform.
Before I leave for the club, I listen to the theme song to the Mary Tyler Moore Show like 10 times in a row. That is absolutely true. My mom used to sing it to me when I was little. And even when I like moved to to Portland and then to LA, and like that's what she was saying. She'd be like, "You're like Mary Tyler Moore. You're gonna make it."
Oh my gosh.
I know, it's really sweet. Isn't that cute? Every time I hear it, it makes me smile. I listen to a lot of Dolly Parton. I listen to a lot of I have that one song that I always listen to when I'm leaving the club, which is Broken Bodies, and it's by the Winter Sounds.
Yeah, you told me that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely check that one out. It's great. It's
got a pretty good meaning behind you playing that song, right?
Yeah, it's a Broken Bodies line the dance floor, piling on top of me. Which is exactly what you want in stand up. Just break them all, knock them down like bowling pins. But I listen to that. And then when I'm on set, a lot of times I actually was thinking about this, like the very few times where I have allowed myself to play my music. Cause like I used to pregame to the National in college. Or like Neutral Milk Hotel.
I like the National though.
I do too, but it's not good drinking music. It's not like, woo, let's go party.
No.
Like, yeah, I used to fucking listen to that while like drinking Burnett's out of a handle, like doing my eyeliner. Like,
yeah.
I am a big like Neutral Milk Hotel fan. I will listen to a lot of like on set, and what I was thinking about what I used to dance to at strip clubs too. So a lot of Bruce Springsteen. A lot of I used to do Rock Me Like a Hurricane. I would do Red Hot Chili Peppers a lot.
I love Red Hot Chili Peppers. Oh my god,
I can dig it, especially like Southern California and the sunshine, and you're just it's
I've never been on the West Coast before, so like I hear about the dry heat, and that's it. Like I hear about like it's a totally different atmosphere in California or on the West Coast. Yeah. Period. You know, like I had a friend when I was in the Army. I had a friend that was from Seattle. Then I had another person that was from wherever Washington State is, like Washington State College is.
Yeah, in Ellensburg.
Yeah. So I had a friend from there as well because he was a huge Cougar fan. Like
my cousin went to my cousins live up in Washington State. My grandma does too. And I grew up going there for like most summers, especially if we didn't take like a vacation.
Yeah.
Where we would go somewhere specific. Like my mom, my sister, and I would go up for 3 weeks in the summer. Yeah. So I grew up like spending every summer up in like very rural Washington State.
And it's so weird too because not to sound prejudiced, but there's like only 2 states I've never met an asshole from, and that's Washington State and Tennessee. Never met an asshole from Washington State or Tennessee.
God, I don't think I have either. Nope. I knew a guy in college that was from oh God, where is he from? Snohomish, which is north of Seattle, and he was a dick.
Oh.
Other than that. You're right though. Most people from Washington are super nice. I love it there. It's beautiful. I like the Pacific Northwest a lot. It's really gorgeous.
Yeah,
The
I hear
winter,
like Oregon super fucking beautiful. Like my sister has been to Oregon before. I've never been to Oregon before, but I hear like, Oregon's super beautiful.
Oregon's
California.
gorgeous. California, the whole West Coast. I mean, I grew up very much like West Coast, Colorado. To like, we spent a lot of time in California and Oregon and Washington, obviously. So that was kind of like always where we were at. More so than like East Coast. Like East Coast, I've only been to the beaches in Florida when I was really little, and then we went to Cape Cod one year,
Ooh,
which is beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. We went to Boston. That was when my dad made us hike the Freedom Trail.
Oh shit. Okay. So it was cool for a little bit until you had to hike.
And then we went and had like we were at like some like seafood restaurant. I will never forget this. He ordered calamari, and I'm like 7, so I don't know what it is. And he's like, it's like an onion ring. It's not a fucking onion ring. It's squid. And so I bite into it. I'm like, it's a deep fried rubber band, you motherfucker. And he's like laughing his ass off. I was so mad.
Oh my gosh.
I wouldn't try it again for years.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I know we told ourselves we weren't going to go 3 hours.
I know, but it's cool. I'm still well within my time frame for where I need to be. This has been so much fun. You are I meant that earlier. You are a fantastic podcast host. You're so easy to talk to.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you keep the conversation on track, but it's natural. Like
you're a fun guest though. You are a really fun guest to have. Like I want to say this is definitely probably hands down like my most fun interview I've had. Just because like you're so much fun to talk to. Your experiences are like no one else's. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous because you've been all over the place. You've had a very adventurous life, and I feel like, and the fact that you're not just like whatever. Like you're like I have. Like like I pitch myself every day to make sure I am living this life. Like it's ridiculous.
I think this will be the last like big soapbox. A guy that I dated one time joked that I had a miniature soapbox that I kept in my pocket, and I would just like whip it out and get on, and be like, "Listen to me." This is the last thing I would say like that. It is so dumb to waste your life not being excited about things. There's so much to be excited about. It's so silly to not just let yourself feel that.
True.
You'll spend your whole life why would you not let yourself be happy?
No matter what situation you're in, right?
Yeah, there's always something good. You just gotta find it.
And that's what I tell my boys all the time. Like I'm like I talk to my homies all the time. I'm like, look, I'm in probably some of the most shitty situations people can think of, and yet I still have a positive and people always ask me, they're like, dude, why are you so like calm in the situation? Like, why are you so happy? Like, you're not even supposed to be like, this happened to you, that happened to you, you got into a wreck on the way to where, like, how are you still in the positive? I'm just like, look, man, like it can always be worse. Like it can always be worse. Like
always.
Yeah, like, and again, there you go again with the inspirational fucking quotes, like the inspirational thoughts, like it's crazy. But yeah, like you're absolutely right.
Yeah. You should see my refrigerator magnets. I use them to spell out embarrassing inspirational quotes for myself when I need them.
I'm surprised you don't have like a million fucking like motivational like frames in your background. You know what I mean?
Honestly, I think those are so like live, laugh, love. Oh man, like I'm white. I'm not that white.
I've slept. I'm not trying to like boast or anything, but I slept with a lot of chicks that had that on there, and they were all pretty different from each other. Like I don't really think that's really like a stereotype with chicks. It's like a lot of chicks, a lot of people in general have the live, laugh, love. Now when it's like tatted on themselves, that's a different story. But like, live, laugh, love is not too bad.
I have one on the back of my neck, and it's I don't even know if you're gonna be able to see it. You see it?
I see it. I just can't read it. What does it say?
It says non serviam. It's so I used to tell people that it was from James Joyce. It's not. It's from The Departed.
Oh yeah.
When he goes that I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me. And It is actually. So it means I will not serve. It's Latin. I took Latin in high school. I don't mean to brag. I did win 2 state ribbons.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds important. So I'm going to say congratulations.
The Colorado Junior Classical League convention. Oh yeah, it's really hot. We built chariots. I made like large like tapestries, like hand embroidered of like Roman myths. I did not have a lot of friends back then.
Oh my god! And I mean, it sounds crafty though. It sounds cool and creative.
I mean, I so like, you know, that was kind of like one of the things I did, but like it was really fun. I loved Latin. I still love Latin. And it is what Lucifer says to God in the Latin Vulgate when he leaves heaven to reign in hell. And then James Joyce, which is what is like quoted in The Departed, he expands on it. He says, I will no longer serve that which I no longer believe, whether it call itself my home, my country, or my God.
Wow.
Which is a fucking mic drop.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And speaking of Departed, I got to go back and watch the movie because I watched the movie as a kid, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like it's so star-studded. Like,
we talked about this yesterday.
Go back and watch that. Yeah.
I love that movie. There's not a moment I cannot put that movie on and just be totally absorbed by it. I fucking.
You know what's funny? I watched Ocean's 11 after that.
Mm-hmm.
And was it 11? Did it start or Ocean's 8? Mm-hmm. Whatever the Ocean's movie was that started George Clooney, the original one, with like all the, like, the A-list actors in it. I watched that after Departed, and I was disappointed. I was like, Departed's way better than this.
You should.
And I also watched the Italian Job after that, and was also disappointed.
The original Ocean's 11 with like Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack. So cool. I think that one's better. You should check it out.
I'm probably gonna check that one out.
Yeah, that one's dope. I went to a film retrospective for the graphic designer that did the credits on that movie and a lot of other movies. It's a cool thing about Hollywood. They're like free. Like the Academy, like the Oscars, they like just do stuff like that. Where it's like crazy panels, and you can go talk to these people that like made these incredible films.
Oh yeah.
And you can just go, like they have them at like the library and the Academy Center, and you can just like go to these places that are like named after people like Ava Gardner and shit.
Holy
and like
shit.
It's so fucking crazy. And they have wine and cookies. And it's free.
I've never had that combination before because I'm not a wine person, but that sounds intriguing.
It's really fun. There's just so much. I mean, that's like one of those, I didn't know this about, and yeah, we'll wrap up soon. Like, I didn't know this, but if you live in LA, you get to see all of the movies like 2 weeks before the rest of the country.
I did not know that. Well, yeah. I know that about some like film festivals that they do in LA, but I didn't know that like you can just like walk to like a normal movie theater.
All the movie theaters.
Holy shit.
We still have second run theaters here, which I usually go to the second run theater because it's smaller. And I like it's like this cute old like 30s, and there's like 40 seats in each theater, which I really like, and it's near my house. But like I went to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood at the Cinerama Dome, which is the movie theater in the movie, which is cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I told my dad that. I was like, when you watch that, I saw the movie in there. Because he used to do that to me when we would be watching TV and they'd be at like Rockefeller Center or like Avenue of the Americas. Be like, I've been there.
Yeah.
And now I get to be like, I've been there.
I know that feeling. Like I have a dad that has been like all over the fucking world, and he does that same shit. He's like, yeah, that's so and such. Like we were watching something, and it was like they were in like San Antonio, and he was like, San Antonio, Texas, and he would name like the actual street that they were on, and I'm just like, weird flex, but okay. Like
San Antonio is fucking rad though. If you ever get the chance to go, I love San Antonio.
San Antonio?
Oh, fucking! They have the river walk. It's so cool because it's just like this long, and it's really old. The Alamo. Oh my! The Alamo is so fucking dope, dude. Like you see it, and like even if you know the story of like Remember the Alamo, it's so small.
Holy shit!
Like you get there and you're like, holy shit! They were gonna defend this. That's fucking nuts. Like it's crazy. And all of San Antonio is so cool. There's this beautiful like cobblestone pathways by the river. You can like duck into these little like ice cream shops under the bridges. It feels very like Venice kind of-y, like Venice, Italy, not Venice, California. But Venice, California is also cool. But yeah, no, I mean San Antonio is fucking rad. I just went a few years ago actually. But yeah, no, it's really cool to get to just be where the movies are made.
Yeah.
I shot a porno at Frank Sinatra's house one time.
Wait,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, one of his houses that he used to own here. There's pictures of him all over. It was really cool. They took me on a tour. I was really stoked.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I think he would be happy.
You've lived a life.
I've also had,
God.
I tweeted this earlier today, but like the only things me and Charles Manson have in common are crazy hair, and we both had a lot of sex at Spawn Movie Ranch.
See, I used to make Charles Manson jokes like years ago, and no one found them funny. But I somehow found myself years later in 2020 on a podcast, and someone says a Charles Manson joke. Oh my gosh, what world we live in.
I mean, I spent like a solid 6 months trying to make this Gorbachev joke work that nobody got, and I thought it was so funny because it ended in being like, it was. I still think it's funny. I'll close with this. This is not a closing joke.
Oh,
people that are 18 now, people that can do porn, were born after 9/11.
damn.
Dude, right? Like there are people that I have had sex with that think about 9/11 the way that I think about the Berlin Wall. And it makes me feel old. They don't get any of my jokes. Nobody even cracks a smile when I'm like, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this pussy.
Oh my God.
I spent so long doing that joke to nobody who got it.
You had me in the first half.
My mom used to say, because like that's what, like Reagan said to Gorbachev.
Yeah.
And like whenever my mom gets really frustrated with something, that's what she says. She's like, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. I don't know why. Like her pop culture references stopped in 1980, like hard stop, 1989. That was it.
Oh shit.
And yeah. So like I grew up thinking that was something everyone else had also heard. Wasn't.
No, especially to 18-year-olds that barely know a 9/11, the impact of 9/11. Like, holy shit. But anyways, Kate Kennedy, like, thank you for coming on here, like, and doing this with me. And again, I know we said we weren't going to do 3 hours, but damn, we did 3 hours somehow.
3 hours.
And also a huge thank you to coming back on here after doing 3 hours yesterday. And my faulty audio and all of that. Again, thank you. Extremely talented, extremely successful. You're only 26. She's a year younger than me, folks. A year younger than me, and it has done so much in her lifetime. And that's only been within the past 7 years, ever since graduating high school. Like that's crazy. It's crazy.
Oh, you should hear the stuff I did in high school. To come.
You say what?
I said you should hear the stuff I did in high school.
Oh shit.
Be another 3 hours.
But Kennedy, where can people find you? On Instagram, Twitter, your podcast, the Kennedy Assassination.
You can find me on Twitter at the OG Kennedy. That's the as in the, OG as in original gangster. Kennedy, all one word. You can find me on Instagram. It's the same thing, but it's the_OG Kennedy. If you happen to come across the OG Kennedy, he is a science teacher from Minneapolis, and I would appreciate it if you sent him a message asking him to sell his account to me for money.
I am dead.
I've messaged him so many times, and he's like a fucking like 7th grade science teacher in like Minnesota. And I've messaged him and been like,
the OG Kennedy.
Way before, he's not even active. And I've messaged him and been like, I will give you hundreds of dollars. Like, I'll give you at least $100. Just so that my stuff's cohesive. Nothing. And then I've been going on podcasts for the last like 4 months telling everyone to go harass this poor man in Minnesota. Still nothing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I want that name, so please give it to me. Because I want it. And I'll pay you money for it. It's capitalism. You can find my podcast on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. It's on like 8 different distributors right now. And it is The Kennedy Assassination. You can also find it's hosted at anchor.fm/The Kennedy Assassination. My personal website is semiprocockjockey.com. I'm still kind of building it out, but it has a little blog. The podcast is hosted there. And eventually it'll, grow from there. Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Yes. Again, thank you for coming on here. Like this is amazing to be able to interview the Kate Kennedy right here on the Half-Assed Podcast. Kate Kennedy, thank you for taking time out of your day to come on here.
Thank you. Squeegee says thank you.
Squeegee, thank you for making your cameo as well.
Hello. Oh, you're such a star.
And ladies and gentlemen, this was the Half-Assed Podcast. And again, thank you to Kate Kennedy.